What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's edition of the Postgame Overreaction show presented by UGAsports.com and Benton Attorneys at Law. I'm your host, Paul Meharry, joined alongside, as always, Jason Butt. We appreciate you guys joining us after Georgia won 59-21 against UMass. I feel like there's a few things we can overreact to today, Jason, off this game. And before we get into that, though, and when we get your instant analysis, if it's your first time watching, we appreciate it. If it's your 50th time watching, we also appreciate it as well. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'll shout out up on the screen. If you have any comments, put them into the YouTube chat. We'll get them up on the screen as well. And if you're feeling froggy, the link to join the show is in the description. So you'll go ahead and come jump with us and come chat some Georgia football. Again, Georgia 59, UMass 21. Jason, as we do each and every week, your initial thoughts, my friend.
Yeah, so we'll go with the bad first. I like to go bad first, good second.
Okay.
End on a positive, The bad, the defense. They didn't come to play. The final score is going to probably make people feel a little better than what transpired, which I'm sitting there. I think I'm just more from this isn't even a fan or a observer standpoint. It's just a matter of sometimes you see a lack of effort and you don't like that. That's really what it comes down to. I think tackling and then the deep pass where neither Dan Jackson or Harris went for a tackle or kind of gave up on the play, assuming that it was going to be done. And I just came away thinking, like, what in the world happened after last week on the defensive side of the football? This is one of the worst FBS teams in the country. They just fired their head coach, and this is the type of defensive performance you put out there. It's one of those things where I'm not necessarily concerned going into Georgia Tech. I think there's some fundamental issues you got to fix. It's tackling being the big one. It's tackling, for crying out loud. When's the last time you saw a Georgia team tackle this poorly?
In a long time.
It's been the first half against Bama, they looked better, which is nuts to say. So that was it was atrocious on that side of the football. Offense, though, I think that the offense last week went a long way, and this is a confidence builder for the offense. It's like night and day, defense to offense. Offense liked everything I saw, and Carson Beck had a great game. You hate that he was in there late and took that shot, and then I think they were playing it safe. Minor injury possibly, but hopefully it's nothing that lingers into the week. But you like what you saw from the offense. I thought they ran well. The offensive line did its job. They looked the part against a team like UMass. Just owned them up front, threw all over them. The receivers had one bad drop. That was it. Much improved game. They're trending upward. And then the defense, again, I don't think that this is going to carry over into Tech. But it's one of those things where you're just like, how this can't happen at this level of football. You're getting paid now to play this game at this level. It can't happen.
It was a tough watch there for a minute, especially with the rushing attack from UMass. That first drive, they looked unstoppable, and so watching that happen and unfold so fast, it was good to see the offense, though. Carson Beck was spinning that thing out there, connected with 12 different wide receivers. Arian Smith over 100 yards, had 110, and then Nate Frazier 136 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns for the true freshman. He's really coming into his own. The problem for Georgia is right now kind of injuries. That you have several of those running backs out. Christian Miller got hurt today. What's the status on him? He didn't look great coming out. We'll try to hear more.
Bad.
Yeah, he was holding his hand, but then they said shoulder on the.
Could have been dislocated, but I don't want to speculate. But that's typically you're trying to keep it still there. But it had to have been pretty bad for him to. That's actually a joint that you can pop back in and get back out there. So it must have been pretty significant.
So kind of watching that moving forward. Good to see Lawson Lucky get involved, tight ends get involved, and then only thing kind of what. To James Carraway's point, says just disappointed we couldn't see the young guys earlier. Game got fun again when they all got in the game. Yeah, would have liked to have seen those guys, heck, by halftime, but you couldn't do it at halftime, obviously, because you were only up by 2 scores, and you weren't really stopping UMass.
I mean, the time of possession, I think it was, 10 minutes of the first quarter went to UMass, I think.
Yeah.
Just the grinding, the death by 1,000 cuts, and that's not Georgia defense. I mean, that's
so total time possession, Jason. UMass had 30 minutes and 4 seconds. Georgia had 29 minutes, 56 seconds. So they still actually beat out Georgia there with the time of possession. Look, shout out to UMass. I don't think they're a good football team, but they came prepared today. They knew what they needed to do. They just fired a coach. It always gets a little weird when you have an interim coach the first game, Jason. It doesn't matter who's playing, if it's NFL, college football. You don't see it a ton in college football, but you see it a lot in the NFL. They fight for that interim coach a little bit harder, try to give them that win. I don't know if that's what happened today, but hey, they came out and put up a fight against Georgia. A lot of fans, I think, wanted to leave at halftime, Jason, but they couldn't. So they were stuck watching the game a little bit longer in their seats. So Mitchell Shiver says getting embarrassed by UMass offense was the best thing that could have happened going into the Tech week.
I don't know. I mean, I think it does add, I guess in theory it adds that motivational level from this coaching staff. But how often this year have we seen a team lay an egg and then the next week it's not much better? I look at Kentucky going into Alabama, where the defense really the offensive side of the ball for that game. Offense looked bad against Kentucky and came out in the first half and was awful. And so it can work both ways. I think it gives Kirby. I mean, it gives Kirby some ammo to throw at his guys. And
sure, but I think it would be better off if they would have just held them to 0 points and nothing on the ground. That would have worked out better for them. But we'll see moving forward.
Yeah,
I think
and getting the young guys involved and not having Carson take that shot in the fourth quarter, it's just. I mean, the defense they were a problem this game, and I don't think it's an indicator of talent whatsoever. It was a mental indicator to me that they just didn't want to be there today. They thought they could come in and just business as usual. They had a great game against Tennessee. This was that prototypical overlook. We just want to get in and get out and do whatever we can with our night. And I think as sitting in this chair, kind of as a neutral party when it comes to putting on that professional hat to observe a game and give it my best take I can. It's just you see what you see. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I mean, it was just a bad performance. And you can, when players are giving effort and they play bad, you can at least say, hey, they're trying, they're just not good enough today. And that wasn't the case. It just didn't seem like it was 100% effort out there. And you could see by Kirby's facial expressions on the sideline that he just was about at his wit's end at times. It's
almost like much like how the fans felt today. 12:45 kick against UMass. Yeah, we got to go to the game because we have tickets, but we're there, right? We're in the building. That's kind of how the defense was. They were there. They were standing in the building. They did not want to be there though, at least for that first half. Bring in Big John here as we always do. He's waiting backstage here. We'll get Big John in here.
What's up, guys?
What's up, man? I see you sporting your Carrollton.
Right, big win last night. Big win.
And the boys doing something over there. They might make a run for it.
We got to get through. We got Hillgrove Black Friday.
Oh.
No, I think you said everything. I think y'all have said everything to be said about the game. It's almost like it's that, middle scrimmage in August where they're just trying to get out and they got a Sunday off. Hey, let's get in and get out. But I agree. I thought that if anything comes out of it, that we didn't see too much of the young guys. And I thought Frazier, I was sitting on my hands. I thought he played a tad too long, barring the injuries that we have.
Look, when they hit Beck, like Jason said in the fourth quarter right there, I was like, why is he still in the game, man? Like, we've heard rumors that there's not really a backup behind Beck, right? That Beck is the guy. Why would you still have him in there in that situation to where he could even potentially get hit like that? And he got up and like you could tell it wasn't like a lingering injury, but he was like, damn, dude, I don't want to be like I've done my part. Like, get me out of here, please.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Let me ask this, not to change the subject, but like with this committee, like when are we going to move off of like brands? Because here's my question to y'all and people that call in later. Like, who really is Texas? Like, what have they done? Who is Notre Dame? Like 50 years ago, 60 years ago when Paul Hornung played? Like, who is Notre Dame to tell college football now, oh, we're too good to join a conference? Like, it's not 1985. Heck, it's not even late 80s anymore. When is Notre Dame? They let them in the playoff twice, and they've gotten boat raced. Like, and I know this is probably not the time and place, and we only get to chat once a week, but, like, I'm so tired hearing about brands and this and that. And then you look at Georgia's schedule. Hey, look at what South Carolina's doing. South Carolina should start getting some. If they beat Clemson, how are they not in if there's other 3-loss teams? Like that's what's so frustrating about this stupid committee. And I'll say this, and I've been saying it for the 10 years. When did the BCS ever get it wrong? So it's clearly about money. The BCS very rarely got it wrong.
Yeah, and I think the issue with the BCS was that it was 2 teams, and I think when you had a third and a fourth team that were vying for that spot, and then there were observers making a legitimate case as to the computers are wrong, you need humans doing it. I was probably one of those people back in the day saying there needs to be humans making this decision. You got 12 teams, and you don't have an even playing field when it comes to you have better teams in one conference compared to another, but you're still going to make these rules where conference champions go and even when one conference is not equal. It's not like the NFL where it is as evenly distributed as possible, and you pretty much are what your record is, so there's really no debate. You know, occasionally you have like the 7-9 Seahawks year, you have something like that come into play, but very rarely. So with that in mind, I almost feel like you have to have a computer component that is weighed heavily, because what this committee has shown so far is contrary to the previous committees that were selecting 4 teams, is that they don't really have any kind of set, as Kirby says, a set criteria. And it doesn't even feel like they know what they're looking at when they look at the data, because as you said, I broke it down in a column this week where you have Texas. They have 1 game in the top 25 coming into this week, and it was Georgia. They lost, no wins over top 25 teams. You can go down the list right now, Penn State. And then the Notre Dame thing really strikes me as odd because, again, not all wins are created equal. Not all losses are created equal. And when you lose to Northern Illinois, I'm sorry, but I don't know how that isn't penalizing them, considering they have 1 game. They have a win over Texas A&M. I'll give them it's impressive, a top 15 opponent. But the loss in Northern Illinois shouldn't have them at number 6 in the country right now. And so I'm baffled just like you are, John.
Well, and like the people in the watch along show were saying, I was guilty of thinking, oh, you got to show something to the committee. And I don't trust that committee for nothing. If you would have won a close game to UMass, so they're going to hold it against you after they let Notre Dame in from a loss, then you start thinking about that. But here's the real sick part to me about the committee. 2 things. Number 1, I'm sick to say this, but I'm a huge Alabama fan for the next 2 weeks. I want them to win. And I don't care about as long as Texas wins today, Georgia's safe because the winner of that Texas – well, it's a sad state of affairs that after the Georgia schedule with 2 losses that we are essentially rooting against going to the SEC championship because we really don't know what the committee's going to do if we were to lose that game. And it's sick for me to say.
No, you know what would happen, John. You know 100%. What would happen.
So as a Georgia fan, you're saying, okay, you're going to give us an extra 2 weeks, and with the potential of potentially hosting a playoff game without going to the SEC championship, I'll sign up. And that's really sickening. That's sick.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But you're exactly right. Yeah, that you want Bama and you want Texas in that game. You want no part of that. And I'm sure, Lane Kiffin, didn't he come out and say early this week, he was like, hey, we don't want to go. And I've talked to other coaches, they don't want to go either. If you're a 2-loss team, I could see if you're Texas, all right, you have that 1 loss. Sure. Yeah, they're probably not going to, you're going to lose out on a home playoff game would be my assumption. But, if you're a 2-loss Alabama team and you lose that game.
Penn State's losing right now.
Yeah. I have the college football scores up here. Let's see. Yeah, Penn State's down 10-7. Arizona State is up 14-0 on BYU. Kansas just scored again. It's 17-0 against Colorado.
Yeah.
Mm.
I know there's surprising to me that there's haters of Kirby Smart because I really believe he practices what he says, and I don't think he throws things in the media like, but how does that spending all off season working on Georgia work now for Lane Kiffin? I mean, talk about Mickey Mouse coaching. You worked all off season, or so you say, to beat a team, and then 2 weeks later, after a week off, you lose to a 5-5 team. I'll take the coach I have over him any day.
Yeah, and I think that day in particular was a terrible day for the offense, and and perhaps that was the final. Well, I want to wake up call for the offense. Now we see what happened with the defense today, but that football, obviously, the SEC is a tough conference. I mean, I'll give it to Florida in the sense since the Georgia game, they have played better. They look better, and do I think they're a legitimate team at this point? No, but I mean, they're playing better. They are improving. They're making Florida look smart, dare I say, for keeping Billy Napier right now. And perhaps by making that announcement that he's coming back, like maybe some of the pressure's off and they're able to play a little, or coach more relaxed, play more relaxed. And, that stuff might go hand in hand too. I mean, they, kudos to them for turning their season around and having some positivity there. But yeah, for Ole Miss, it's interesting. Same psychological things. Georgia's defense today doesn't show up. Ole Miss probably thought they had a walk in the park after having the big Georgia win, a bye, and then they come into this game thinking, okay, well, we're a top 10 playoff team. All we got to do is win out. No big deal. And, it's the SEC. Anything can happen. So I think you saw that there today, and now Ole Miss is in trouble and likely not in.
I'll just say this. I know you guys got a bunch of people, but I want to just close with this. Certainly I wasn't around for the Gettysburg Address, or I was a little too young to hear Ronald Reagan's Mr. Gorbachev tear down that wall. But about 2:15 the last Sunday morning, I was as fortunate as a 45-year-old man could be to hear Triple G's diatribe. I count myself extremely fortunate to be a member and to be fortunate and to be a part of this site, and to hear that I was ready to run through a wall.
He's waiting in the background, but I think I'm about to put him on right after you, John.
And Triple G, I've been hearing in my head, are y'all with me? Are y'all with me? Are y'all with me all week? So, dude's a legend. I love the guy. I hope he calls every week. So, hey, y'all have a happy time. Talk to y'all next Friday after.
John, we'll see you next Friday night, man.
Yes. All right.
Yes, sir.
See you, brother. Yeah, Jason, did you get to? I doubt you did. Right?
I didn't stay up, so
no, you need to.
I wasn't tuned in after I left last week.
No, you need to go back and watch Gary's diatribe there.
Okay, all right.
So this is just kind of one of those games where you look at it and you go, all right, it's over, right? It's done.
I think so. I think you say, I think you say it's. Look, it was terrible. I don't think you make excuses. I'm not an excuse kind of guy. Like you call it what it is, but you move on. You know that what you need to achieve is in front of you. And this is just really from the fans' perspective. Like, it was a dumb performance by the defense, but the offense looked good. You can take that away. But hey, Georgia Tech's next. You have to think that the Georgia Tech game isn't going to go the same way this one did. You think the defense will play better?
So Chris Garcia is saying, what about Georgia Tech next week? We better not sleepwalk towards Tech. I don't think you – and I
think that – because look, Tech is – they're a middle-of-the-road ACC team, obviously. So not an Alabama, not a top 5, not a Texas, not one of those games. That said, Georgia hasn't had the – problem of getting up for Tech, but I will say Tech has played better. I would be more I think I would expect if Tech were to pull the upset off, it wouldn't be Georgia's lack of effort. It wouldn't be all the things I've mentioned today. It would be Georgia Tech came in with a good game plan and out executed and got some breaks and all that. I expect Georgia to be ready next week. I really do. They haven't not shown up, but Tech has played better in this game over the last 2 years. I actually was with a friend and a while back. It was before the Tennessee game. I said the Tech game scares me more than Tennessee or I should say Ole Miss or Tennessee. It was before the Ole Miss game.
Really?
I said Tech, yeah, just the rivalry. It's Tech kind of still like slowly building. You know, they're better than they were 3 years ago when Jeff Collins was tanking the program into the ground. Y'all know how I felt about Jeff Collins. And so I think Brent Key's building something. I mean, I don't know if it's ever going to be anything great, but it's enough to where, you know, he can cause you problems. And then in this type of game where it's going to be Tech Super Bowl, much like Georgia's had to deal with so many other teams. Ole Miss, 2 weeks ago, that was their Super Bowl, obviously, as John just mentioned. So,
this game is huge for Tech. They know
it's tremendous.
Man, when's the last time Tech had the opportunity to single-handedly knock Georgia out of the playoffs? I mean,
really national title contention, because I mean, it wouldn't have been since the 14 playoff,
right?
Where they were actually a competitive team to do such a thing.
This is probably their biggest game in 15, 20 years as a program
in terms of facing Georgia.
Yeah.
Given that, like, you know, they. This is one of those it'll be a Friday, but like kind of any given college football game. Like that's my feeling about Tech. And I haven't felt that way about Tech in, like two decades maybe.
Right. This is, like I said, this is their Super Bowl. And we say that a lot. You just said it about Ole Miss, right? It was Ole Miss's Super Bowl. We saw what happened to them against Florida, but they won their Super Bowl because they wanted to beat Georgia. We heard Brent Key after their game on Thursday night instantly talking about to hell with Georgia. I think their running back said the same thing in an interview. Like, we don't care about this game, to hell with Georgia. Like, we're moving on.
Yeah.
It's going to be a big game.
And you have to think when it comes to just mattering, it matters at the end of the day, like just the game itself matters more to Tech than Georgia. Georgia's got more on the line, but this single game matters more to Tech at this point. And I think when you think of it like that, that's scary. That's a scary team to play. And so, Georgia can't sleepwalk. I don't expect them to sleepwalk. And I fully expect this coaching staff to have their attention, embarrass the defensive players in meetings this week. But the defense has to, they got to own up and take responsibility. And there has to be better leadership on that side of the ball, because this should have never happened. They should not come into a game like this and have that kind of effort. When you see multiple players across, when you're not able to do the basics, like set an edge against a team like UMass, when you're not able to tackle like you do in any other game for that matter, when you have the aforementioned Harris-Jackson blunder in the secondary that goes for 75 yards, that's something that through a game is just kind of trickling down to more and more players. And so there needs to be some player accountability, at the end of the day when it comes to that.
Real quick, before we bring Double G on, I'm about to bring you on, Gary. Georgia Tech played Thursday night. Georgia just finished today at 4:00.
There's a little bit of an advantage here.
Little bit of a time advantage there. Obviously, the game is in Sanford Stadium, so a big advantage for Georgia in that regard.
Bless you. Bless you.
I was trying to say all that without sneezing, and I got through it, but I had to sneeze eventually. So, Speaking of sneezing, this guy was I wasn't sneezing. I was cracking up from last Saturday. Let's bring him on. Old Gary, Double G, Triple G.
Okay, I'm here.
You're here, brother.
Where do you want to start at, bro? I'm asking because I don't want to be like last week. I was proving a point last week. I want you to tell me where you want me to start at this week.
Start with the bad this week, Gary.
Okay. The good, the bad, the ugly, or the uglier? Or the uglier?
Uglier. Start with the
uglier to good. Although, uglier to good.
Okay. The ugliest, I wasn't able to watch the damn game today. But this is going to prove a point anyway.
Okay.
Because I'm going to have to ask y'all questions, and y'all going to have to answer me to make me prove my point today. Okay?
Fair.
And I need to ask you another question. I'm having trouble remembering what time the other programs are that we have. So I need that either posted on the forums or somebody to tell me what time they are supposed to be, because they ain't being regular or something. I'm having problems finding them.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, we'll get you that. We'll get you that for sure. We'll get something on the board.
Okay, the ugliest thing that I saw today was, number one, I wasn't able to watch the game. And you want me to tell you why?
Yeah.
Of course.
Okay, I don't have cable. But you know how I watch football?
How?
Okay. Do you want me to show you my setup real quick?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I have never showed you my setup, have I?
Never have.
Okay. You think I'm just a redneck, right?
I don't think you are.
Okay. But let me show you. Okay. I got a computer here, and a flat screen TV here. Okay, you see all that?
Yep.
Okay, you want to know how I watch football? I don't watch football on cable. I watch football on the internet.
Okay.
Okay. The reason why I couldn't get the game today is because I don't have cable. But there's ways to get around that. If you don't have cable, you still get the game, but they're illegal.
I was gonna say, keep that in your back pocket. Don't let us know about it.
Okay. I'm not, because that will definitely get you monetized and probably get me booted off of YouTube. But that's besides the point. Okay. Who was the other caller that was on right before me?
That's Big John.
Okay. I don't know everybody yet, and it's hard for me to remember names. I'm sorry. It just is. I know you, Paul, and I know you, Jason. But I know you, Jason, because your name is on the screen. I know Paul because he always here. And he's the primary host of this podcast. Rody is the primary. Okay.
We got it.
Help me out a little bit, Paul. What's Rody's role?
Rody's the owner.
Okay, he's the owner, but you're the primary host of this podcast. Okay, what the other podcast y'all do? You host one. Rowdy hosts the watch along, right?
Yep.
And there's somebody else that does the watch along.
Dane. Yeah.
Dane. Okay, and he's the one that always gives me shit sometimes, but not in a bad way.
No.
He gives me shit the way I like people giving me shit, because he tried to challenge my knowledge of football. He won't never win, but I like the challenge. Okay. Now then, why I asked who that other person was, because with all my setups, I'm having a little bit of problems today. And I have been for the last week. And it's something, and I'm real good with computers and TVs and all that. And I know workarounds and stuff. But the problem is,
Gary, I'm gonna have to come back to you. Let me come back to you later on when Roddy gets on. I got like 5 people waiting. I'll get back to you, I promise. Let me get James in here. Big James. James was waiting for us out there in sunny San Diego.
What's up, guys?
What's up, James?
Man, how do you feel to be rich, James?
No, not you,
59,
Rody.
59-21, James. What do you think?
I was just disappointed in, like, after getting slighted by the committee. I thought, like, okay, this team's going to come out and try to make a statement and shut everybody up, and then they show up with that effort. I'm like, I mean, at this point in the season, everything's a playoff game, so why not? I get it's UMass, but come out and stomp somebody out early.
Do you think so I'm reading between the lines there, James. Do you think that the committee had Georgia right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what they're saying is Georgia's a team that, you know, everything they say is BS, but they're saying they're a good team, but they're inconsistent. And you're just kind of feeding into their fodder, and you could have just shut them up, especially when Indiana loses. And if you came out and make a strong performance, it's like, yeah, everyone was right. Indiana shouldn't have been above Georgia. They still didn't, but you're just giving the committee some of that stuff that they're using against you despite your strength of schedule and strength of record.
I almost tweeted out, Jason, like when, especially after UMass scored that 75-yard passing touchdown, like Ward Manuel, like sitting back, like, like, yes.
So, think about it. Human psychology. When you put out something, you're sitting there, you're working all this. And again, I don't think they know what they're looking at, like, just based on the results of what they've put out so far. But if you're them, you're probably thinking, no, we do. We're putting in all this time and all this effort, and these are our rankings, and we're very confident in them. And nobody likes it when their work's criticized, especially in a manner that you're seeing really a national media has really taken to. It's not just Georgia that people are saying, you guys are getting this wrong. There's a lot that I would say a lot of reporters are saying you're getting wrong. And yes, so when Georgia does put a defensive effort like this and they're watching the game, it's only going to, like James said, the human psyche will say, see, I'm actually right. These were our thoughts. We are supported by this team playing this bad and giving up 223 or 226 rushing yards to UMass, because why in the world should that happen if you are a top 10 program or a top 5 program, as I think some people could reasonably argue with Georgia based on who they've played and what they've accomplished. And I think the thing is, it's, two things can be right. This isn't the strongest Georgia team that we've seen in recent years, but you compare this team to other teams in their resume, and they are 100% not 10th and 11th in the 11th seed right now. This is based on body of work somewhere in the 6 to 8 range. And so, yeah, I'm with you, James. You would think the offense came out and it looked like they were inspired. They were like, we're going to put up points. They kept trying to put up points, I think, because the committee has been so ridiculous. And you saw that with Ohio State adding that touchdown against Indiana when they didn't have to late in the game to add style points, because this committee is wildly inconsistent right now. And they seem to really be caring more about, I guess, how teams are winning as opposed to who they're beating. And Georgia had a layup today. And unfortunately, they, missed it twice and kind of tipped it back in and, didn't look impressive, which is crazy to say. Before Paul and I jumped on, I said, how often do you see a 59-21 win and against any team and say it's not impressive? But defensively, it was, and of course you get the 2 late scores at the end. But it truly was just, I don't like I said earlier, it's not a problem. I don't think. I think it is a kind of a situation where they came in just not ready. But it's just from a viewer standpoint, it's disappointing.
Have you guys looked at the actual college football playoff committee and who is on it?
Yeah, I did that, and I didn't want to. I'm not going to sit here and say that there is I'm not going to say they have it out for certain teams, but I think if you look at it, there is a heavy Midwest feel. Yeah. Heavy Big Ten feel to this committee.
There's one SEC person, and he's tied to Kentucky. And other than that, I didn't see any other SEC.
There's the former Pinkel, the former coach of Missouri, and
Pinkel, then you got Yurachek, the AD at Arkansas.
Yeah, and then I think there's a former AD at Missouri. I think
Kentucky, I think, but majority were Big Ten Midwest people.
Yeah.
What's weird is Carla Williams used to be at Georgia. She was big time up at Georgia. She's now the AD at Virginia. She's on the committee. Kelly Whiteside, which she spent 14 years as a USA Today journalist. And they have Will Shields, former player. I don't know if that name rings a bell. Randall McDaniel is on there. Gary Pinkel, Ward Manuel, Mike Riley, which isn't he? I might be getting this totally confused.
Yeah, Riley was Oregon State and Nebraska, right?
Yeah. So just, this was my first time looking at it because everybody just says Ward Manuel. So I was like, oh, while you guys are talking, I'm gonna look at the committee. Kind of a weird bunch, if you will. But like you said, Jason, a lot of Midwest ties in that bunch.
Look, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I genuinely do think unless you give me evidence to the contrary, I think they're just trying to look at everything and put together who they think are the best, and I just think they're not good at it. I think that's really what it comes down to.
Also, they do not watch the games together until the championship weekend. So
I think that's weird to me.
That also.
But I get it. They all have schedules too. I mean,
sure.
They can't all come in every weekend. Travel to Texas or wherever the office is this year. I mean, that's.
But it'll be interesting to see what really happens when they all kind of sit down, right, and have to explain themselves instead of maybe doing it on like a Zoom call, or if you will, or whatever they're doing, right? So, James, does this game linger on to Georgia Tech? I think that's probably the biggest question that most fans have. Is there's two ways you can look at this. It was a 12:45 kick against UMass. The players wanted to get in and out. They obviously didn't do a great job on the defensive side of the ball. That just breakdowns happened. That first drive happened, 75-yard touchdown pass happened. Offense looked incredible, though. So you could say the exact same thing about the offense, because we're going to want the offense to carry over, right? But we're also going to say the defense wouldn't carry over. So can both those things be true?
Yeah, I don't think it's so much lingering from this game, but all the games. Georgia came in sleepwalking against Tennessee. They're down 10-0. Came in sleepwalking against Alabama, against Ole Miss outside of the pick. Texas is really the only game that they came out firing from the start. So, I don't think this game is going to be the cause for next week, but Georgia Tech's probably going to go down and score in their first possession and be up 7-0 on Georgia, and then, hopefully put the clamps on them and start building that game like a Tennessee game. But I don't see anything to show why a team with a running quarterback, we look so confused ever seeing one. I don't see how we go and shut them down.
The one play that drove me crazy today was the Michael Williams missed tackle on, and I know he's been banged up all year, but you're talking about a quarterback at, they're splitting quarterbacks at UMass, and he can't bring him to the ground on fourth down. That to me just, this guy's supposed to be, and again, I mean, you see it across the board. It just looked like effort wasn't there. And that includes the star players too. And he's supposed to be a first-round pick, and that's not something that's going to stand out in a positive way, injury or not. I mean, if you're on the field, you're expected to make those plays.
Think about being UMass's offensive coordinator and trying to rotate those two quarterbacks. You'd have to call them by their number because one's last name is Hairston, the other last name is Haston. So there's literally just two letters missing out of it. So like, if you don't enunciate that properly, you really kind of throw off you throw off the play there. So you got to call them by their number. But shout out to UMass. Right? They came in, they had a game plan. They're not a great football team, but they did have a decent game plan to go at Georgia. And heck, if they don't turn the ball over early, who knows what could have happened, right? But it didn't. Georgia ended up putting 59 up. I saw a stat on Twitter. I think Kirby is now 0-13 when favored by 38 or more points. So I will keep that in my head because
like the offense played like they should have covered today too.
I took them to cover, and had I known that stat, maybe I wouldn't have. I don't know. I thought for sure that the defense could come out. Georgia scored enough points to cover.
Honestly, to me, the story all year has been the defense has done enough. It's the offense in the big spreads that can't get them to cover, or even in the 10 to 14 point games or whatever the case may be, or the double digit spreads, I should say, where they win by about 10 to 14. Usually is the defense does its part, the offense doesn't score enough, and today was the absolute opposite.
Foster Moss says, how close is Arian to 1K? We were on a little 1K watch like 3 games ago. ESPN does not update with today's game, so they're at 5. He's at 585 plus 110, so he's at 695.
I mean, if they make a run in the playoffs,
695 for Arian. Man, I don't think so. That's 305 yards. That would be tough. James, what are you looking for? Keys to the game against Tech moving forward?
Can stop the quarterback run, and what does that do to the rest of their running game? Georgia Tech's going to want to run the ball on us, and we gave up a lot of yards to UMass. So I think offense scores, I'd say take the over in that game just on first look before I see anything come out.
Oh, I wonder, now that you mentioned that, I wonder if that is out. Let's see. Should have probably done this prior to, but it's a live show. There's no way this is real.
What? Is there already a line?
Yeah, on Vegas Insider, there's no way. But it
What?
says 11:29, 7:30. That is the game. This is not from last year.
So what's the line?
I'm going to let both of you guess it before I tell it to you.
Probably 21.
You were talking about spread first.
Spread.
21 and a half.
It's 16 and a half.
It's 20 and a half.
20 and a half. Wow.
Kind of feels a little high. Over under 53 and a half. 53 and a half.
That feels high. Especially because if Georgia Tech's able to do what UMass did and control the ball, which is in their close games and wins, that's kind of what they do.
20 and a half.
Ball, yeah.
I feel like that's a little high. I feel like that's high. I don't know. That's just me. I wonder if that line changes any.
Just get me to the break, win the game, and get me to that 2-week break and let everyone get healthy and Kirby kills guys for 2 weeks.
Right.
Paul, I know you got some guests. I need to get out of here.
I have no guests, Jason.
You got no guests?
I have zero guests, and I only have James. So if you leave me and then James leaves, I will then be full screened onto here. Maybe Eddie from Acworth or
Eddie hop on.
Are listening right now and can help me and can save me.
Right.
One of you guys.
I'll stick around.
Just stay with me. Stay with me. Just hold on. We'll run through these scores real quick. Texas up 14-7 right now against Kentucky. Yeah. 10-10 Penn State, Minnesota. Minnesota does have the ball. What? Somebody blocked the punt in that game. I don't know who's got the ball. Oh, never mind. Minnesota just scored 16-10. They did it.
Minnesota?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I need you on the show, Andy. 21-0 Arizona State over BYU right now. BYU, I thought for sure was going to drop to 21. They only dropped to 14.
Of course, it's an inconsistent group. I mean, this is what this committee does. Oh, wow, 21-0. That's
Kansas is holding on right now over Colorado 20-13. Clemson 35-0 over the Citadel, obviously. 14-3 South Carolina over Wofford. Missouri 14-3 over Mississippi State. And the rest of these games for tonight have not started yet. So, James, final thoughts? I do have another guest waiting, so I'll let you get some final thoughts in, and then I'll grab him on.
Yeah, final thought will be I'm glad I saw Gunner as the backup with Arizona State with this big game. I heard a lot from Kenny Dillingham and a lot of people talking about Rashada leaving, and from all the talks inside the program is they had no problem Rashada leaving because this freshman quarterback they thought was better. So that kind of scared me knowing that Rashada is potentially the number 2. So I was glad to see Gunner play, and he looked pretty good.
Damn, I just clicked on this Arizona State's quarterback, this true freshman. He's got 17 touchdowns to 4 interceptions this year.
Yeah, not such an anomaly, Paul.
Yeah, it's not bad. All right, JC, man, we appreciate you, brother.
All right, see you guys.
See ya.
I didn't know that Arizona State had a true freshman out there doing.
I just know that they've been playing better lately, and they have this crazy shot at the Big 12.
I just remember the only thing that really sticks out to me to Arizona State is Herm Edwards and Antonio Pierce, racking up the recruiting violations while they were there. They're lucky that program didn't get SMU death penalty. They're still alive right now.
Yeah, and Antonio Pierce is lucky that he still has a job because I don't think he will. And come January.
Hey, Dion! Shout out to Dion. He might be going over there.
Yeah.
So Brock just threw a pick for Kentucky, so it looks like Texas might be running away with that one there. Let's get our William Carlin in here. Let's get him in here. Let's get him chatting up. Oh, Mr. Willie. You're at the game today, Mr. Willie?
Yes, we did.
A little different atmosphere today than last week.
Difference last week we stood up the whole game. This week we sat down the whole game.
No, did they give you guys fireworks during this game too, or that's just a nighttime special?
Yes, that's just a nighttime thing. That's a nighttime thing. No fireworks, but they. Oh gosh, I forgot his name. They do the military thing. This was their Veterans Day thing.
Okay.
And the tenor from the Atlanta Symphony. Gosh, what's his name?
He sings at the Braves games.
Yes, same guy. And he does.
Timothy Miller.
Yes, that's him.
Yeah.
He comes and does God Bless America every
cool.
Veterans Day game, and he did that today, and that was the highlight of the day. Boy, he's just unreal.
Yeah,
he's good.
He's really good. I feel for him though, and he goes to those Braves games in the middle of the July and August, and he's in that full-on three-piece suit. He's out there having to sing that thing. I'm like, dude, it's 140 degrees in there. You got 40,000 people watching you, and you're having to sing this out there. What's your thoughts from inside the stadium?
It sounds about like what y'all were doing. Is how in the world are these guys running over us like this? They kept the ball 10 minutes, like you said, in the first quarter. I was wondering if they hadn't fumbled the ball the one time there in the second quarter, if it would have been tied at half,
Yeah, that I was just saying that was a kind of, looking back on it, you don't want to think that that's a pivotal spot in the game against UMass, but it was. Like you needed that turnover right there to kind of stop their momentum.
Yeah, because we didn't stop them, the whole first half to speak. Yeah, but anyhow, I've been to those games before where it's just kind of lackluster all the way around, any way you want to look at it. And that's what it was. The missed tackles was kind of hard to follow or say how are they missing so many tackles on these guys, and like you said, just a general. They just whichever way they wanted to go, they went. And
I kind of said it was kind of like you guys being fans in the stands and a 12:45 kick against UMass. It's like we're gonna go because we got tickets, right? We'll be there. And the team has to go because they've got to play. But they're like, man, I really could be doing something else today if I wanted to.
Yeah, and 5 minutes. It did fill up, okay. At kickoff, it was full, but
they showed it on
kickoff. I was like, man, ain't nobody here.
Yeah, they showed it on TV right around that 10 minutes before kickoff, and it was like, oh boy. So it did fill up. It did end up filling up.
It was pretty full at kickoff. Yes, it. So I thought that was, like you said, it showed a strong following that, everybody got there right at time. My boy walked in right at kickoff. Good timing, buddy.
Yeah.
So, I don't have a whole lot to add to everything other than I just hope that, the committee don't kick us out because we let them score 21 points.
Right. I think the 59 is going to help in that department. When it was 45-21, I was thinking, okay, this is not a good score for this committee. But at the end of the day,
they'll have that whole inconsistency thing going.
Yeah, the 59 might help, but if they actually watch the game like we watched the game, it was like what we were saying earlier. It's like the defense gave the committee a reason to feel validated and why they're sitting at 10 right now. And even though they shouldn't be sitting at 10, but
I 100% agree. That 59 looks a whole lot better than the 45 did. And you really didn't do much to change those two possessions there. But they're going to be going down the box score of each game. And like you said, 59 looks a whole lot better. Carson looked really good today. We haven't talked about Carson. I think Carson got whatever he wanted whenever he wanted it out there. For the most part,
he did. It was something crazy, like 3 incompletions through.
Well, he started 7 of 8 with 2 touchdowns.
Yeah. I was like the first half was like 3 incompletions, or something crazy like that. But there was a when they had to kick the field goal, there was the one series there with 3 incompletions, and when they wound up having to kick the field goal, But hey, good to see a 53-yarder into the win. As
Right.
far as
That's a good kicker.
Yeah, he's good. Speaking of which, Hot Rod was there at halftime.
Yeah, he was on TV. He was on TV. They did a little.
They lined up. They had a lineup of Bulldog legends at halftime, and he got the biggest cheer, I think.
Yeah,
very popular player. Yeah.
They said he said on TV that he's putting out film every day and just hoping somebody calls him. So that's what he's doing right now, and building Legos.
Putting out film. That's funny.
Yeah. I guess once I don't know, once you can kick a 55-yarder into the wind, I feel like you could do that, consistently. But he's having to send film each week. So that's,
you only have the NFL and kicking. When I covered the Falcons and Cam Nislek, and he was on the Falcons, and Georgia, so I covered him in both places, and he told me it's like because he had a similar thing where he couldn't get on a roster for a while, and being a kicker and a punter, it's so hard. There's only 32 of those jobs, and so if you have like Rodrigo, when he dealt with some inconsistencies in Tampa Bay, there are enough. There's probably, including the guys on rosters, there's probably about 65 to 70 kickers that can kick in the NFL. So if you struggle and you have those inconsistencies, it doesn't take long for them to drop you. And then once you're dropped, it becomes hard to get back in.
Get back on, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I see Roddy's here, so Mr. Willie, I appreciate you. What's the spread for the game next week? 20.5. Right on? Too low? Too high?
It's just you never know who's going to show up because Tech can put a lot of points up, I think, and they can score quick if you watch that game Thursday night. Mm-hmm. I think it's a little low.
Yeah,
but I think we're still a 2-touchdown. We ought to beat them by 2 touchdowns like we did Tennessee, but 3 touchdowns, that might be a bit of a stretch, I think.
Bit of a stretch, yeah. We'll go ahead and put that house in Monroe up on the. We'll take the points and we'll double down that house for you. We'll build.
There you go.
Build it twice as big. See you, Mr. Willie.
See y'all. Be good.
Yes, sir. Mr. Willie's the best, man. He's awesome. Let's get Roddy up in here. Jason, you can now leave. Jason was trying to leave me cold, like by myself.
Leave him just all by himself.
He's trying to leave me full screen here.
Long-haired hippies, man, you can't trust them.
Thankfully, Mr. Willie showed up. He saved it because it was about to be, the Paul show here with me.
Every week there's a ton of people. I thought people would be just dying to come and talk about the defense, and I guess not.
I think it's one of those games where you just get out of it. You hope that Christian Miller's okay, and you just say, well, it was what it was, right?
And you know what? The James point right here, chaos is – I think a lot of things will sort itself out. I think the beauty for Georgia is that you had UMass. You were always going to win that game despite a poor defensive showing. And then next week is Tech. And compared to what a lot of the other teams have to go through right now to finish the season, Georgia has a much easier road having played all their tougher opponents up front. So – you went out. Some of that other stuff may end up, despite the committee's absurdity, kind of take care of itself.
Yeah.
They get lucky again.
Right now, Minnesota, I don't know what's going on. Minnesota 19, Penn State 16, right before half.
They got a late field goal. Or safety. Yep. Wasn't it 17-17? So it's 16. It was 16-16.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 19-16 now. So we'll see. Kansas is about to go score again on Colorado before the half here as well. So. It's getting interesting as the minutes tick down here on this Saturday afternoon. Stuff's starting to make its way in and out. Jason, but speaking of making its way in and out, we'll see you later, my friend.
All right, I'll take care.
See you, bro. Roddy, what you think of this? What do you think of this game?
There was a reason I picked Georgia not to cover.
See, I picked him to cover, then I saw somebody on Twitter, I don't remember who it was, said this Kirby's now 0-13 with games that he is supposed to win by 38 or more points. Yeah, the spread is 38 or higher.
Well, it's just not his MO. That's not what he does. But this is not the reason they didn't cover. It's not because he takes his foot off the gas. He doesn't like to score 56, 63 on a team. I mean, they will if you put in the second team and they keep scoring, then so be it. But I just thought they had such a breakthrough versus Tennessee. This is exactly how we felt against after Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, they're going to put in a subpar effort. And UMass just fired their coach. I was like, oh, well, then you're going to kill him. I'm like, sometimes you fire a coach.
I said that earlier. In the NFL, you see it a ton. When the interim coach comes in, they fight like hell to get him that win.
Who's the head coach of your Atlanta Falcons right now?
Raheem Morris.
Yeah, they fought like hell for him.
Yeah, when he was the interim, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Again, it's sometimes you do it that you want this guy to get it. Coach made a good point. Coach Donovan on the show was like, and sometimes they don't because they don't like the guy. But this is a good coach, and he's smart. He countered as a good chess match. I thought he did some good things on offense. But yeah, I was just thinking, okay, what if it's 35-0, and Georgia has to score, another touchdown to at least tie and then go ahead. Maybe they will, and everybody's like, well, Kirby will cover the spread because he needs to make a statement to the committee. He does. It's obvious he's not trying to kiss their ass. If anything, he's hurting his chances by coming out and kind of questioning them publicly, saying, I don't know what they're looking for. And again, I'm all for it. I know a lot of PR people are like, don't do that. Don't question them. They'll punish you. But he's like, no, we're going to, if we lose, then we get punished. If we win, then they've got to justify why they have us ranked where they do. So I just did not see Kirby putting up 49, 56 points on a team, especially, he knows the head coach. Just didn't see it happening. But I did not see them giving up the most rushing yardage since 2018 LSU.
Damn, that's long. That's how long it was?
That's how long it's been. I just saw it in the game notes. So UMass finished with 21 points, 350 yards of offense, including 226 on the ground. That was the most rushing yards allowed by the Bulldogs since 2018 at LSU. You were inside your own stadium. And let me give you a little quote from Inside Skinny here from one of my sources on the sideline.
They 5.7.
Kirby lost his shit on the defense. Says I haven't seen him that mad in years.
So we talked about this earlier. Your internet is kind of jacking up, but hopefully you can stay with me here. We talked about this earlier. Does this give Kirby more ammo to tell his defense, hey, you suck, right? Or would he have rather them just come out and handle business today, and he wouldn't have to do that whole, back and forth of, hey, you suck, let's get better against Tech. Just come out and just whoop ass today instead, and then just handle business. I think it's the latter. I think he would just much rather them come out, handle business, not have to do this whole like, hey, you guys, the fake juice, if you will, almost like, hey, you guys suck, so we got to get better. But he's obviously has to go that route now because of what they put up against UMass.
They've had plenty of these games where you get their attention.
Right. There's been multiple this year. So like you don't need another one of these. You just want them to go out there and handle business, right?
You let the third string Yale quarterback at Florida put up points on you.
Yeah.
You let Mississippi State, who's 2-8, score 31.
Yeah.
You did a good job against Tennessee. Only held them 17, but Tennessee also shot themselves in the foot multiple times. What's the great defensive stand? I guess Texas, but it's not been a crazy defensive year.
Yeah.
So, but today, I think to your point, Kirby in the post-game show, and I'm sorry for stuttering, but he said, look, give credit to UMass. They came out and played more physical. They wanted it more. We came out, and he didn't say lackadaisical, but he said they had more energy. They were tougher than us. They were more physical than us. I'm like, yeah. 4th and 1, they blew you 5 yards off the ball, handing it to that big up back, instead of to the quarterback. So you got blocked. You got out schemed. You got out. Guys didn't follow their assignments. You had blown assignments, missed tackles, and everybody. We talk about it every time there's a bad defensive effort. Tackling guys standing up, grabbing around the shoulders, throwing your shoulder into him. when they tackle well, what do? They're taking out knees, hips. You're hitting on the guy's inside hip, driving through him. They're they're shoulder checking guys, thinking that's going to stop them. Running through arm tackles, or putting out arm tackles that they run through. This was just a bad, and even then, you set yourself up for play action passes. If those guys were any more accurate, this team puts up 35. Now, granted, on one of their touchdown drives, there were 2 busted plays, but Michael Williams had a sack, and the guy turns it into a big yard. So there were a couple of busted plays, and then you had double coverage on a wide receiver down the sideline, and he scores a touchdown on you. I mean,
he kind of made a crazy circus catch. The
Ryan Williams catch against Alabama.
Yeah, but the problem is the not tackling him after the catch. Sure, he can make the crazy circus catch. You got to tackle him after that catch. You can't always stop that catch, right?
Yeah.
Why don't you see if you can't go out and come back in, because you're buffering pretty good. While you're doing that, I will shout out Benton and Benton, so my face isn't huge on the screen here. I'll get you right back in. Shout out to Benton and Benton Attorneys at Law. They're one of our sponsors here for the Postgame Overreaction show. Based out of Monroe, Georgia, they cover all of the metro Atlanta area. Take care of you for numerous amounts of different things. So as you can see here, over 55 million recovered in 2024. If you're injured, be smart, call Bart. Okay, injured, be smart, call Bart. You won't forget it. You see these right here: wrongful death settlement, 3.8 million. Dump truck crash settlement, 3 million. Tractor trailer settlement, 950,000. They are the top guys. Here's Bart. Here's his dad. Eugene Benton was a big-time judge in Walton County, went and opened up a practice with Bart, and just 2 really, really good guys. They're actually helping try to settle a hit-and-run case that myself and my wife and my family was all in down in Florida before we went on our cruise earlier in October. And they're doing a great job with that. So if you need help in anything that you need, personal injury-wise, Benton and Benton, you can go to their website, bentonandbentonlaw.com. And remember, if you're injured, be smart, call Bart. Rody, you look a lot better.
Thank you. Yeah, went back to the hardwired thing. I think bringing the laptop in from Coach's house, I was still messed up with the Wi-Fi there, still attached to that somehow. But hey, we can complain about the overreaction show. We got to complain about the defense, but your offense scored on 7 straight drives.
Mm-hmm. Your true freshman running back. He looks different. It's just he looks different once he gets that ball in his hand. And I like Chauncey Bowens was my guy out of all these guys. Everybody was hyping up Frazier. I was like, Bowens is my. I like him. He looks different than Bowens. He looks different than Phillips. He looks different than Etienne with the ball. He looks different than any running back Georgia has on its roster right now with the ball in his hands. And this was kind of his breakout game, if you will. 136 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns for him. You're going to need him moving forward. What's going on with Etienne? Are we going to see him against Tech, you think? Or
yeah, I said that you don't need him versus Tech, and Coach Don is like, what the hell? I'm like, yeah, I get you can't really say that about a great player. You want all your great players in tough games, especially a rivalry game. But, I mean, when you have busted ribs like that, I'm like, yeah, if you're confident in that game, then you sit him, because ribs injuries are very easy to re-aggravate. So,
which I think has happened, right? He had it, and then he went
because he played against Ole Miss. That was my question. I'm like, if he's got broken ribs, why did you play him against Ole Miss?
But he wasn't. So he was not dressed out on the sidelines today, Roddy. But Branson Robinson and Roderick Robinson both were dressed out today. Any reason why there?
Hey, you try to get him as close to being back as possible. Let him go through the motions,
let him truly go through putting pads on. It's that, and that wouldn't surprise me at all on a Kirby Smart coach team, right? To be like, all right, we need to get you one step closer. And they're like, okay, the next step is me playing football. They're like, no. The next step is you putting pads on and sitting on the sidelines. They're like, what the hell? That's not the next step. He's like, that is the next step.
Well,
you have to get your mind.
Sometimes those are game time decisions, but you're like, hey, you had a good week of practice. We're going to let you dress out. These guys want to dress out, even if they know they're not going to play. You don't want to be there in just your jersey,
Yeah.
So you let them dress out because they hit all their benchmarks. It's a non-conference game. You can dress out everybody and their brother. Well, hey, put your pads on just in case, you know.
Which they did, right? They ran what is it? W. Penn? What's his first name?
Wade.
Wade Penn. Wade Penn got in the ballgame. Is he the next? I don't even know who he is. Is he the next Cash Jones? We'll have to find out.
I didn't know who he was. You had 3 freshman running backs and 2 walk-ons. That's who ran the ball for you today. You picked up 208 yards.
Not bad.
I mean, think about it. 3 true freshmen. This is no redshirting in here. 2 of those guys, like you mentioned, you know, we saw Chauncey Bowens in the G-Day game. Phillips and Frazier didn't get here till the summer, which is usually means they're really far behind the ball, you know, can't pick it up. But you saw Nate Frazier. He's so special that he was actually able to take you through that first game against Clemson. And I like the fact that he had another score and he had 95 yards, and they put him back in the game and let him go. So,
hey, go ahead, Roddy. Buy some stock in Wade Penn. He wears number 31. He's a true freshman, 5'10", 200. He's the next Cash Jones. Go ahead and just buy your stock now.
Did you see the guys jumping all over him? They were so excited.
Yeah, I'm telling you, get in on the ground floor on that guy. I didn't know he's a true freshman. I thought he might have been like a senior or something. He's a true freshman. Get on the ground floor of that kid right there. He ran pretty good too. He had
so 4 true freshmen carry the ball. One of them's a walk-on, and then Cash Jones doing his thing. Thought Carson Beck. I put it in my column, my 3-2-1 column. That run that he had last week against Tennessee
changed everything, Roddy. Changed everything.
Gets past the block. Gets past the tackle, goes through 2 arm guys, two arm. Didn't really break the tackles, but they didn't have good lines on him. And then runs through a safety or cornerback, or nickel, whoever it was. But that's guy in the secondary. It changed, man. Changed.
You in your 3-2-1, you said it perfectly, and the GIF you put with it was even better. The heart growing from the Grinch. That's what it truly felt like. It was like this. It was like he grew, right? You saw it when he got up, he did the little whatever thing and pointed the first down. Like you could see the confidence. It was like, oh shit, this is a different Carson Beck than we've seen all season, even against Texas when he was, throwing the ball around. This is a different Carson Beck. It translated over and into this game against UMass. You hope that it continues on, right, against Georgia Tech and can continue further. He looks completely different though. He looks and it's tough against UMass, right? Because whatever throw he wanted to make, it was there. Guys were getting pretty good separation against guys that you would expect them to get good separation against. So it's tough to watch and kind of see that. But he put the ball where he needed to go. So
good decisions, got him in the right plays, moved the protection around. The O-line did a good job because, he's set the protection where it needed to go. Lit him up. This is a guy who ran 3 times, 15 yards. You don't expect to see him running it against UMass. Like, don't take the chances. But I think that's who he is. I think he stopped trying to be a hero. Stopped trying to force things, knowing that all the pressure was on him. And he decided he became a leader.
Mm-hmm.
Started having fun. Remember, Kirby's like, this guy doesn't get 2 up. He doesn't get 2 down. And people were mad at him in the 2 losses because they saw him smiling or grinning or something like that. They wanted to kill him after the Ole Miss game. And Kirby's like, well, no, I mean, and when they're winning big games, he's not gesticulating. He's not pulling a Jackson Dart or Baker Mayfield or anything like that. He's not clowning around. He's just, he might point or grin, but he's never too high, never too low. And that's great. Remember, that's what everybody loved about Mark Richt until they didn't.
Correct.
Where's your passion? And
Correct.
I think it's almost like, I can have a little more fun. And he became that leader because they saw him cut it loose. What's Kirby been saying for 6 games? Cut it loose.
Mm-hmm.
He did. He took the ball and ran, and we saw that again today. Today, he cut it loose all over the place. And then on defense, they didn't. They played stiff. They played slow. They played like somebody else was going to make the play. Or they played like, hey, I'm going to pad my stats and get a stop here, even though that's not my lane. That's not my zone. That's not my assignment. Somebody else has it. No, they just – and I'm not going to bang on any of the leaders over there because, I'm not sure who was making some of those defensive calls. But, Michael Williams had a great game, led the team in tackles. But, we just didn't see anybody kind of take control of that defense like we saw in Texas. Michael and Jalen Walker had it down. Last week, same thing. This week, who was the guy telling the defense to get their shit together? Stop tackling poorly. Stop
I don't think they're
assignments.
I don't think there was somebody. What I thought was weird, I see Eddie. We'll get Eddie on here in just a second. Georgia came out 5 DBs to start the game, but Ja'Cory Thomas was one of those DBs on the first drive, and they had him lined up. And again, I am not Brent Rollins. I am not Coach Donnan. I do not claim to be any of that, but they had him lined up almost in like an outside linebacker role, kind of what you would see Chaz Chambliss in, and he was basically the backside help. So like if they were to run the ball his way, he was the one to tackle. But it felt weird. And he was in there for that first drive. They ran down the field, scored the touchdown, and then you didn't see him there anymore. But I hadn't seen a defensive back right there lined up like he did throughout the whole season. So they came out with some type of, what I'm getting at, they came out with some type of different package on that first drive. UMass went down, scored 10 plays, 75 yards, most all of it on the ground, and you didn't see that package again the rest of the game. So.
No, they then some of the adjustments they made were based on the fact that UMass came out in a different look. They ran a bunch of different formations. They really did a great job sealing the edges sometimes, and they had good angles. It was just a great scheme. And you're like, okay, you've had all week to chart your first 7, 10, 14 plays. They did a great job. You didn't expect to hit a couple of those. And one of them was just you had them on 3rd and long. Mm-hmm. And I don't know who crashed in on that side of it. I think it was Damon Wilson just crashed in on the running back. It's like there's nobody to the outside here. 38-yard run by the QB. I mean, you're about to get off the field, on 3rd down. At one point, I remember, I think they were 4 for 4 on 3rd down. It took a long time before they missed a 3rd down. So,
yeah.
And a lot of times they didn't need to go to 3rd down because they were hitting on 1st and 2nd.
Right. So it was totally different game for them, first and second half for UMass. And, good for Georgia stepping up, bend, don't break in that second half. Let's get Eddie from Acworth in here. He's repping his UGA Sports hoodie. Look at him.
Like that?
Let's get
guy.
See it.
How are you boys tonight?
Man, not as good as you. Look at that backyard. Wow.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. In the back here, I back up to Corps of Engineer Properties, and this is appropriate. As soon as I sat down, I heard a donkey braying in the background. How appropriate is that for today's game? Ass. That's what it was today. It was assy. Okay.
You heard
a donkey back about 500 yards back there. Somebody
sure
owns a donkey back there.
You have donkeys in your backyard?
No, that's not my yard all the way back there. It's somebody else, but at some
point. It doesn't matter. I mean, I don't just see donkeys walking around anyways. That's kind of crazy.
Cobb County donkeys. Come on.
Yeah. What do you think about this game, Eddie?
Well, this team is Jekyll and Hyde. It's just up, down, and the defense, we've talked about it. Y'all have talked about it. It was just zero effort. It seemed like they didn't want to be there. It seemed like they can't tackle again. The offense looked great. I was proud of them. I'm like James. I wish it had been 59-0 in the 3rd quarter, and we could have had guys on the bench resting and seeing some of the younger guys play, because it was really fun to watch Chris Cole get a scoop and score. How cool was that? You got Segovia White making some great catches out there. The running back you mentioned, I can't remember his name, but that was cool to see. That's what you want to see in these types of games. And it was just that first quarter. I mean, they death marched us on that drive. And I was like, are you kidding me? They like absorbed almost the entire quarter on that drive.
Yeah. For the first half, they had the ball for 20 minutes to 9, 21 minutes to 9.
Yeah. So the good news of this, Paul, that I'll take out of this, obviously the offense was good news. That's good to see, is that you can take absolutely nothing out of this game, watching this football team this year, into next week. You can take nothing. You cannot say we're going to lose to Tech next week because of what happened Saturday. It's just we've watched this team all year do this, right?
Yeah.
It's just up and down, up and down.
But so if you can't, that's what I was saying earlier. If you can't take the defense, then you also cannot take the offense.
Exactly. You're exactly right. That is 100% correct. And that's a scary thought. But
correct.
I think Roddy's right. I said this too, Roddy, that play was the play that turned the season for both the team and Carson Beck when he took off on that run and leveled that DB. There's no doubt. I 100% agree with you. He's playing totally different. He's playing relaxed, it seems like to me, right? He's just not even thinking. He's slinging it. And what was his first inclination today when he got a little pressure? He took off and ran. He would have never done that 8 games ago. Right?
3 times today.
Yeah, and he did that. Hey, Paul, one more thing, and I'll let you guys talk. We talked about the beginning of the year. Where would this team be without ETN? And rightly so, right? The way the year started. Where would this team be without Nate Frazier? Thank you, God, that freshman came to the University of Georgia.
I mean, so you're really getting to the weeds there, because then you got Rob out, you got Branson Robinson, ETN's hurt, no Frazier. I mean, it would be tough. It would be tough. It'd be really tough. Yeah, he looks like a gamer out there. Now, I will say, I don't know if you agree with this or not, Roddy. I feel like you need a second running back to step up. Maybe not for Tech, right? But you definitely need somebody who can be the Yang to Frazier's Ying, if you will, in the playoffs. You have to have somebody that can do that.
Could ETN have played today? He froze up, I think. Do you know that, Paul?
Roddy's froze. No, I don't think he could. Yeah,
he could. He could not have.
No, he was not dressed out.
Okay.
He was not dressed out. So I agree. And Amari says Cash Jones, baby. Yeah, you can continue to rely on Cash, but I think you need somebody back. ETN is somebody to get back in there, and because Reliant, what was it, 2 games ago against Ole Miss, the fumbles for the true freshman. You know, it's a lot to ask of him, right?
It is.
You came in here in the summer. You didn't come during spring. You came in here from the summer, and we're relying on you now to run the ball 20 times a game. You know, that's tough.
And Cass Jones is not one of those guys who elicits fear in the defense, right? I mean, ETN comes in,
attack maybe a little bit,
yeah, maybe so on the wheel routes, right? But you get what I'm saying. He's not a home run threat. Frazier is. ETN is somewhat. Yeah, you're right. You need that second run. Look at the Falcons, Algier and Bijan, back to back. You know, they just wear people out. You got to have that.
You talk about second running backs. My thought is, give me a guy that does something different for that 1-2 punch. And I don't know what Nate doesn't do.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, they don't throw to him very much.
They don't. I was going to say they don't throw to him all that often.
The pass pro was the question, right? It looks like he's going to overcome. He's gotten much better at that, right? That's my point. Yeah.
So you have that. You have, I guess the one main guy you would want back, and Roddy's froze again. The one main guy I would think, Eddie, Rob. If you can get Rob back.
Yeah. No, we were all excited about him going into the year anyway, the way he finished up last year, right? He looked like a beast.
Dog 85 says we need a 240-pound bull running back. Yeah. If you can get Roderick Robinson back, that's the guy. And let's see if we can get Roddy back in here again. You good, boss?
Dude, I'm hardwired in. I don't know what the hell.
Do you think we can see Rob this year? It surprised the hell out of me that he was dressed out today and going through some drills prior to the game.
I said if he came back from surgery, it'd be at the end of the year. Well, we're at the end of the year. Plus, if they don't make the SEC championship game, you basically have until December 20th.
Right.
So there's a 3-week layoff there. Now all of a sudden he gets back. He is running. You know, it's tough to come back from that, but you get him right back at the end. Here's the thing, though. It'll be his first games.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I don't trust him, but I mean,
sure.
Everyone else says now maybe he comes back with fresh legs and just plows through everybody, hungry as hell. But at the same time, you saw how Branson Robinson, and when he came back from his injury, he's slow. I mean, I guess I learned the lesson with when you go back to Nick Chubb, that first year back from his injury, he's okay. The year after that, completely different. All these guys look – Zamir White, same thing. All these guys in year 2 after a major injury – and again, people go, well, it's just turf toe. That is if you have to have surgery on it, that's completely different.
Yeah.
So how much does he put on it? How much does he stress? How much can he cut, turn? He hadn't been hit all year.
Right.
You know? So maybe Chauncey Bowens is that second pounder guy, you know, but I would like somebody who could catch. That's kind of that. And that's the thing. People say, well, what about Trevor Etienne? Is Nate Frazier better? I'm like, no, because you throw to Trevor.
I mean, we saw it, what, 3 games in a row. He's a leading pass catcher for the whole team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but to, I think, all of our collective point, you need that second guy to come back. And you can rely on Cash Jones as much as you want. And I'm not knocking Cash at all. I think the Cash, even when you get that second guy, whether it be Etienne or Roderick Robinson, you still have to get Cash in there because he can make plays. But you want a second guy with
They use him most on third down, just like you have that kind of Jaguar package on the defense on third down. That's when you see Damon Wilson come in. Last year it was Jalen Walker. They have specialists for third down. Cash Jones is a third down specialist because he can do so much. And you're not expecting him on 1st and 10 to pick up 11 yards, 12 yards. But if it's 3rd and 3, 3rd and 6, you put in Cash Jones. He's going to run a crisp route. He's going to catch anything you throw his way. He's going to get north-south. So,
Are you guys surprised they haven't used Dylan Bell back there more as a true running back this year? I frankly am.
Well, I think I'll answer this first. Your wide receiver depth was probably worse than your running back depth was.
Yeah.
So you needed a more wide receiver than you did it, which is crazy to say, right? You needed a more wide receiver than you did running back. With all the running back injuries, you still actually needed him to play more wide receiver snaps.
You're running 13 personnel. Who are you pulling? It's like so much of but again, they've had a few reverses to him. They've had a few pitches to him.
Sure.
Because you got to get the ball in his hands. What I'm more surprised about is they haven't thrown to him more. Yeah, and I get you. Sometimes you go through progressions, but I'm like, man, I know Dominic Lovett's the guy. Arian Smith's still your leading receiver. We need to see how many yards he had with him. He had 110 today.
Yeah, so
110 yards on 3 catches.
He's at 695 for the year. Somebody, I think it was Foster Moss, said, "Are we on 1K watch?" I think it'd be tough. Tough. But we were on 1K watch like 3 games ago. He just hasn't put anything up in those 3 games. Yeah. So he had
correct me if I'm wrong. I didn't see one drop today that I recall. Did y'all see a drop?
Yes, Dominic Lovett hit him in the hands.
Love it.
I must have missed that one. I'm sorry, but okay, 1. We'll take 1, right?
Yeah,
that's
one
great.
Is better than what, 4 a game, 5 a game. So your average there is dropped. Speaking of Dylan Bell, this year's this is actually more receptions than I thought he had. 35 receptions for 405 yards and 4 touchdowns. I didn't think he had 35, but he does. So.
Again, I don't like the rotations. That's my number one pet peeve with Kirby Smart football teams. I was pleased to see them give it to Nate Frazier like 4 times in a row. I'm like, wait a minute, after he's had 2 successful runs, usually you guys pull him. But it's always been that way with wide receivers and guys like that. I'm like, well, they have 14 different guys catch passes today? 12?
12.
Yeah. Again, nothing wrong. Against this team, I get it. But when you needed in a big game, what did they do last week with offensive line? No rotations. When in the big games, they're not trying to feed everybody. And I get that because you're trying to keep everybody happy. But I'm like, look, if you can't get into the game, you can't win it in practice, then don't expect to get into the game. Feed the hot hand. And it kind of drives me crazy. And it was the same with they wouldn't feed James Cook. I went 2 years begging them to feed James Cook on the regular. And every time he had a big play, they pulled him and we wouldn't see him. And it just drove me bonkers. And that's kind of the way I feel with Dylan Bell. I'm like, give Dylan Bell, 12 attempts a game. See what he does. I don't want to second guess him because I don't know. Maybe he does not getting the separation they want, or maybe he's just not he's a 3rd or 4th read route that they progress to. But it drives me crazy not to see Dylan Bell do more with it in his hands, because if you can get it to him, well, I put it this way: how many catches did Lawson Lucky have today?
I could
Lawson had
2, maybe. I don't have it.
He had 4.
Okay.
How many tackles did he break today?
Ooh.
Now, granted, sometimes you're running out of bounds, but there are a few.
6, 7, maybe.
No, he didn't break any. No,
I thought he did. No.
At least I don't think he made the first guy miss all day. And again, I'm not. Even me, I love tight ends. That's my favorite position on the field. I talk about those guys all the time. But I'm like, a couple times I'm like, man, coaches yelling, make him miss you, and it's like, I like Dylan Bell. Maybe getting some of those same pitches. And again, it's different positions. I understand that. But give me Dylan Bell against Georgia Tech. We've seen the best players Georgia Tech has. We covered most of them at recruiting camps around the state. We also saw Dylan Bell come in from Texas and just torch everybody.
Yeah.
Give me Dylan Bell against anybody in Georgia Tech secondary. Feed that man. Now, I'm not saying don't throw to Arian Smith. He's huge. He had a 49-yard reception today.
Mm-hmm. That was awesome.
First one he hadn't dropped in a long time. He might be a 1,000-yard receiver if he hadn't dropped 2 giant bombs the last.
For sure. We would definitely be talking about 1,000-yard chance here.
So he did better today. I get it. When you say, "Hey, I want this guy to get it," then you're taking it away from someone else. But man, feed him. And I don't know what you're going to do in the secondary when you have a 75-yard touchdown bomb between Daniel Harris, who was the guy that you replaced Julian Humphrey with, and one of your best safeties, and he just comes up.
Who looked last week? Eddie looked amazing. Daniel Harris came in, and it was like, man, why haven't they done this all year?
What Eddie says, they're up and down, man.
And then you see it today, and you're like, that's why they haven't.
That's why they didn't put him in, because that's probably what he did in practice. And again,
wasn't that Dan Jackson on that play too? Wasn't that Dan Jackson on that play?
Dan was right there.
Yeah, I mean, 2 guys right there. They couldn't find the football, and the receiver did.
Like Amari says, time for Ellis Robinson.
So we saw DeMello Jones got in before Ellis Robinson did today.
Yes, he did.
And,
yes, he did.
That could be because Ellis plays the same position as. I mean, they're both corners, right? But they kind of play different. He might play the same thing as Everett does, right? And Everett was still on the field, so we didn't see Ellis. We saw DeMello Jones, who he's a big old kid. He's pretty lanky out there at corner. Yeah. I'm curious, actually. I've got Georgia's roster pulled up. I might as well look at it while we have it up. I'm curious what they have him listed as, because he 15, DeMello Jones, 6'1", 185. He looked
bigger than that. Yeah,
he looked bigger than that.
Yeah, he did. So, Paul, I want to ask you a question, because you brought this up earlier about next week's game, because that's what we're all focused on now, right? We can kind of put this one in the rearview mirror. You said this was Tech's biggest game, I don't know, 15 years or whatever, right? Because of the implications with them playing against us at home at night, knock us out of the playoffs. But I want to turn that back around on you. This is the biggest game for Georgia going into this Tech game, where in years past, everything's locked up. Even if we lose to Tech, we're still going to the SEC championship. The winner of that still goes to the 4-game team playoff, right? So that game to us has been, it's just kind of there. And I think Georgia's played like that the past couple of years. It's just like, whatever, get through this game. This game, I don't think you're wrong, Paul. I think this game means more to Georgia than it does to Tech next week. This is everything for Georgia. You lose, the season's over. We're going to the Cap One Bowl. Who cares, right?
Yeah, you're right. I didn't think about it from the Georgia perspective, but you're right. It's a huge game for Tech. Like I said, I think it's their biggest game they've had probably 15, 20 years, realistically. I mean, they have a chance to knock out Georgia from the playoffs. Mm-hmm. But Georgia also has created this mindset of we're in the playoffs right now. Like, our playoffs started last week against Tennessee. Yep. So they won against Tennessee. They had a playoff game against UMass. They won that playoff game. Now this next game against Tech is also a playoff game. It's big for both schools. You're right. And it's I didn't think about it from the Georgia perspective, but you're absolutely right. It's a huge game for them. And Kirby hates Tech, right, Rody? Like that's one of his worst.
He hates a lot of things.
Yeah.
He hates Florida. Not a fan of Tennessee. Detests Auburn. Hates poor tackling.
Yeah.
Hates lack of turnovers.
Hates that first quarter.
Their assignments. Hate guys not striking blocks.
Yeah.
They weren't striking blocks today. They weren't wrapping up. He wanted some knockback tackles to get them in third down. He didn't get those today.
Got one from Chris Cole. That was a great.
Well, Chris Cole killed a man. That
was awesome.
That was by far the best defensive play of the game, I would think.
That Athens Clarke County Attorney General might have his ass arrested before the night's over.
That was awesome.
Yeah, he's going to be a player. But no, I think
he's next Roquan Smith, by the way.
Yeah.
So we said that last year about CJ Allen.
That's true.
CJ might be your next DeAndre Swift, but
CJ Allen might be your what?
I don't understand that.
not Swift. N'Kobe Dean. Excuse me.
Okay, yeah.
He might be your next N'Kobe Dean. It might be your guy that kind of comes on and is great in coverage, fast side to side, but just run stopper, interceptor. That's tough to put on because I don't know that anybody's the same size and speed of Roquan, but
yeah,
this kid he's different. That was almost my prediction at the end of my column the other day. I was just going to end with Chris Cole's going to be a problem. That's going to be like
what's
crazy. That was going to be my prediction for my 3-2-1.
The craziest part of it all, though, is they've got another kid coming in this year in Zayden that looks like the inside linebacker.
Justin Williams over there.
Yeah.
The inside linebacker recruiting is just like whoever they want. They just go pick the best ones. They're like, you're coming to Georgia, and if you're good enough, we'll play you. So, Eddie, I appreciate you, my friend. I've got Dane Young. I don't know where.
Oh, yeah. No, that's fine. I just want to leave you with this. Everybody read Roddy's 3-2-1 column weekly, because if anything, you get the greatest analogies in the world. Roddy, every week I read that thing, and there's at least one or two I just about pee myself laughing at, because you pull stuff out of your hanky, and it's freaking awesome. So everybody, please read that and subscribe to UGA Sports. Thank you, boys.
Hey, we'll see you tomorrow night, Eddie.
Yes, sir.
See you, Eddie. Hey,
let's get old Dane. Before we get Dane,
he can leave his ass in the cold. It's freezing up there. I got to talk about, because here's something he needs. We're less than a week from Thanksgiving, so that means Christmas is here. You need to go ahead and order these today. Go to the Rogue Shop and order their Delta 8 or Delta 9 cannabis advent calendars. Last year they sold out of them super fast. If you want one, you got to get it quick. We did the advent calendar with my son. He had the little thing. He opened the door, there'd be a chocolate behind it or $1 or something like that. Why let kids have all the fun? Check out the Delta 8 cannabis advent calendar for adults. And behind each little Christmas door, you open it up, and there's a delicious, organically produced edible behind there. Each day is going to be a different one. So what's behind day 13? What's behind day 19? What's behind day 5? You don't know. Check it out. Go by the Rogue Shop. They have a Delta 8 and a Delta 9 one. They're only $60, which is a hell of a deal for this stuff. Of course, they also have, sample packs and things like this. But this is what they're pushing right now, because it's a big deal. Also, you need to go in there and vote for the Rogue Shop. Again, without the Rogue Shop, we wouldn't have this show. So use promo code Bulldogs10, BULLDOGS10, and get 10% off your the advent calendars or the sample packs or anything that you need to help you with your chronic insomnia or chronic pain.
They're the best too. Huge college football fans. So let's get them in here. Might as well, right? Get it done over with.
Might as well, right?
Where are you at?
That's the Rogers Center. Taylor Swift somewhere over there. This is Toronto.
Hold on.
Yeah.
You're in Toronto.
I'm in Toronto, Canada.
To see Taylor Swift?
I am not seeing Taylor Swift. My wife is somewhere over there. And she is, I'll zoom in if you want, but she's the white woman in a sequin dress. You can't miss
Yeah. So
she over there with her boyfriend?
Maybe. I don't know, but I can promise you this. For what the tickets cost to this thing, you can be sure I'll be employed at UGA Sports for a long time.
Yeah.
So what were the tickets?
I ain't telling, man.
Come on.
It's my wife's birthday. We treat it,
She ain't on here. Tell us how much they cost.
How much does your house cost, Rody? I don't know.
No, I'm looking this up right now. It's Taylor Swift tickets in Toronto. I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, we have the internet, dude.
Let's see.
Yeah.
What are they, $800?
Oh, God. No, bro. We're in the thousands.
Jesus, Roddy. To get in the door at this place, to get in the door at the Rogers Center tonight is costing you $2,000 before fees.
That's about right.
I don't love my wife that much.
Golly.
So, Roddy, I love the watch along. I love you and Coach Donnan. I missed you so much today, and I need to be on there for multiple years to come.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so did you watch the game at all?
I did, and man, what was it, most rushing yards against Georgia and a half since like 2013 or something. I saw some stat out there. Yeah, Georgia wasn't motivated to stop the run against UMass. Didn't end up mattering, but I can understand if I haven't done the post game show, but I can see why you might have a little fear for Georgia Tech. Other than motivation is going to be a bit different. So to me, the thing to look at, Paul, I think it was you last week that tweeted that Georgia does not have a path to host a home game. And now all of a sudden, there goes Indiana.
That tweet took off, by the way. Thank you for the retweet on that, Roddy. That thing took off.
But all of a sudden, there goes Indiana, and there goes Ole Miss. I think Georgia's right in line to host one of those 5 through 8 seeds.
Yeah, it's looking better and better for them. And Big John came on early and said, "Hey, I'm a huge Alabama fan these next 2 weeks because that keeps Georgia out of the SEC championship game."
Yeah, I mean, unless what's Texas? Texas was destroying Kentucky, right? That's.
Yeah, Texas is up 24-7 right now. It's middle of the third.
Yeah, Kentucky can't score that much. So Texas is good going into next week. I suppose the only other math on this, Paul, is if Auburn takes out A&M tonight, A&M takes out Texas next week, and then you get Georgia-Bama regardless of what happens to Bama.
Correct. That is what could happen, and I could see Texas A&M actually losing to Auburn tonight. And then you would have to be a huge Texas fan next week to stay out of it.
Doesn't it feel like one of those spots where all of a sudden Peyton Thorne looks like a Heisman candidate one night of his life?
Oh yeah, tonight. Yeah, he's gonna throw for 350 and 3 touchdowns. Yep.
Here's my perfect scenario: Georgia gets to host. Alabama plays Texas in the SEC championship. Alabama loses, falls out of the championship. That's the only team I'm scared of. And when I look at that, it's not that terrified of it. Georgia came back and took that game, and you had 4 turnovers in that game. You handed them the contest. But what is Georgia's biggest weakness? We saw it today on a 38-yard run on the first drive. Running quarterbacks. I get Miami's got a good one, but when Milroe is on, he is the most dangerous quarterback in the nation, especially to Georgia. So if I want Georgia's national title hopes to be up, avoid Alabama, avoid Ohio State as long as possible. Ideally, neither one of them makes it into the playoffs. Give me Georgia against Penn State, Boise State, Oregon. I'm not really too worried about it. They're a great football team, and they're going to be just like facing Georgia. They can get up for that one. Anybody in there, I'm like, the only team that I think who I don't say who has Georgia's number, but who has Georgia's biggest Achilles heel is a running quarterback who could tuck and run and get past you. He's faster than anybody you have on defense, and that's Jalen Milroe. So, hey, let him play Texas. Get a legacy drive from March Manning in the last second to beat him. All of a sudden, Alabama has 3 losses, and you're like, yeah, no, we're going to drop you out of the playoffs altogether. How's it feel? Because that's what happened to Georgia last year. It'd be a beautiful karma.
If we get to the 3-loss world, does South Carolina have an argument?
I think so. Yeah. I don't know if you get to
probably better than Ole Miss.
They beat no, Ole Miss went and destroyed them in Columbia. So if that head-to-head, that may be
right. They got 3 bad. Ole Miss got 3 bad losses.
Georgia's not a bad loss, right? So I'm glad you said it that way, Rob. So this is the funny, how do we classify good wins and bad losses and struggle wins? There's all these terms that we come up with of any win's a good win, right?
Yeah, and to me, it comes down to I don't listen to College Game Day very much, but I did while I was driving to Coach's house. I had a replay going on the car thing, and they were talking about the bracketing and all that, and Nick Saban standing on the table pretty much saying, who have these teams beat in the top 25? And he named 3 teams with 0 top 25 wins. And to me, I don't want to say that that's all that matters, because that sounds like I'm just pitching for Georgia because they have 3 top 25 wins, and so does Alabama. Maybe that's why he's mentioning. But to me, if you want to know, are you a championship team? Can you do it? Indiana goes and they play their first ranked team, and they get their doors blown off. That tells me they couldn't do it. Why is Army not all the way up there? Because we don't expect them to be able to do it.
But they're undefeated though, so why can't they be?
But
right?
Notre Dame is like, who have you played Notre Dame? You have one top 25 win over Texas A&M. That was week 1, you know. So yes, losses matter and they should, but I'm with you, Dane. It's like good win, bad loss, bad win, good loss. It's tough. I think to me, look at them versus ranked teams. Georgia has 2 losses to ranked teams. Maybe they can't do it. They also have 3 wins versus ranked teams. Maybe they can do it. So it's at least you have something to look at. Whereas we saw Indiana get tested today, it was pass fail. They failed.
Look at this big tower, man. Look at that thing. That's the CN Tower.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Have fun.
I can tell you we're bored with my
your money out there.
No, I'm just saying it's all the Swifties going to be they're going to love that.
I mean, there's a lot of people here trying to find their way in, but
So what?
I don't
So
get it. Like, I don't think she's that great of a singer, and I tell my wife that. So, Paul, I don't know if your wife's Swiftie.
No, she's not. Last question, Dane, before we let you do what are you going to do tonight while your wife's in there for 7 hours? What's your plans?
Well, considering how much was to spend on that ticket, I get to go buy a lot of alcohol if I want to.
Yeah. Just go sit in a hotel room and watch college football.
I mean, it sounds pretty good. Not gonna lie.
Yeah. Well, be safe, my friend, and we'll see you back at Coach's house on Friday. Yeah.
Sounds good. Appreciate y'all. See ya.
See ya. Yeah, that's crazy. To get in the door at that thing was $2,000 before fees. You're probably dropping $3,500 to go see Taylor Swift. That's crazy to me. But hey, to each its own. To each its own. Your internet needs a $3,500 upgrade.
I don't know what I can do, man. Here, why don't you do some score updates, and I'll be right back.
All right. Well, Rody is trying to get this thing moving and grooving. We'll go full screen on me. Dang, I need to get some chapstick going. We'll score update for you guys. 24-7 Texas over Kentucky right now. Kentucky's got the ball. It doesn't look like they're going to be able to do anything with it. 8 minutes left in the third. Penn State's got the ball at midfield. They are down 22-16 right now to Minnesota, which there was a lot of folks saying Minnesota could win this game, and apparently Minnesota has also knocked Penn State out of playoff contention on several occasions. I'm not too big on the big, so I don't know that. Arizona State is absolutely putting it on BYU right now, 28-9. 2 minutes left in the third. Kansas holding strong. They're at second and goal on the Colorado 4. They're up 23-21. Looks like they could be scoring again here soon. Clemson 45-7 over the Citadel. South Carolina is finally pulling away from Wofford 28-9. 11 minutes to go in the third. Missouri 28-13 over Mississippi State. Then the games tonight, guys. Games tonight are going to be fun. Army Notre Dame. That spread is 14. Notre Dame. It's at a neutral site at Yankee Stadium. That'll be a fun one to just watch in general, right? Just to see a game getting played in Yankee Stadium. I think Army could, if they can have enough ball control and have the clock to their advantage, they could actually beat Notre Dame in that one. You got Boise State against Wyoming. Wyoming's 2-8. Spread is 22 there, so it looks like Boise State will keep moving on. Kansas touchdown, Aiden says. So, oh man, it's getting interesting over there with the Jayhawks up now 29-21 over Colorado. Alabama against Oklahoma at Oklahoma. Spread is Alabama 14. I don't see Alabama having any issue with that, but that's the ABC game tonight for 7:30. ESPN, this is going to be probably the one most of us will be watching. Texas A&M versus Auburn, with Texas A&M now down to just a minus over Auburn at Auburn. Probably the biggest one that has the most playoff potential and consequences besides this Notre Dame and Army game later on. So you look good, boss. You look all right. I don't know what it is. It's just like you lose it in and out. Rest of the way, Ohio State takes care of business against Indiana. How far they won 38-15, Roddy? How far does Indiana fall? Because I saw, I think it was College Game Day this morning. They have their playoff predictor, right? And they said with a win, Indiana was like 99% chance in the playoff, right?
Yeah.
With a loss, they're at 92%.
Can be. I mean, I get it. It's all AI.
Yeah, but they're 10-1. They don't have a big win. How far do they fall?
Well, it could be the same situation with Notre Dame. I mean, Notre Dame's big win could be Texas A&M. Texas A&M loses to Texas.
Texas A&M loses to Auburn tonight.
Yeah, well, yeah, they lose to them, then they're out. And then I guess their big win would be over Army.
Yeah, the game
Again,
tonight.
I love Army. My son's going to be in it. But I'm just saying it's tough to say, hey, we've got this snazzy schedule. So
Right.
If you drop them, then you almost – I mean, they would have one loss to Ohio State, and you're going to tell Notre Dame, okay, you also don't have any good wins, and you lost to Northern Illinois.
So Will's in here with us. He says Indiana will be 8. James Caraway says 10. Omari says drop to 13 to 16.
See, I was with Will because I thought they might drop to, jump in at 8. This is what I was talking about last week. I mentioned some of these scenarios, and I could see a situation where they drop, hey, they don't get really punished. They don't drop that far because they're playing a top 5 team. Remember, towards the end of the year, they don't have as big drops as like when they dropped Georgia 9, especially if you're playing, a head-to-head. And you basically have 6 through 12 all SEC teams. Now, of course, that won't happen with Ole Miss dropping out, but I could definitely see them dropping to 10 and Georgia moving up to 8.
So 5 through 8 get the home games, correct? Just so we're clear on that, right?
Yeah.
5, 6, 7, and 8. All those 4 teams get home games. Georgia is sitting at 10 right now. Ole Miss was at 9. They lost. So Georgia automatically, I say that, you would think jumps up to 9, right?
Right.
Indiana at 5 lost. So it kind of depends on where they put Indiana as to where you can go if you're a Georgia.
That's why I thought Georgia would move up 2 spots. Get number 8, and then Indiana drops to 10. Because I don't see them doing what they should do is, hey, you set the precedent. When the number 3 team dropped or lost, they dropped to 12. So against a ranked team, a top 25 team. So, hey, where's your 9-point drop? But we haven't seen anybody in the upper echelon there drop that far. We've seen one team drop 8, we've seen another team drop 7, we've seen one team drop 6, and another team drop 5. Why does one team drop 5 points and a Georgia team drops 9?
So Georgia fans, you should, and again, this is assuming a lot here, you should by Tuesday night have a potential home playoff game. Then all you have to do is beat Tech. And again, I'm assuming, right, that all you would do at that point again would be move up some more. So we shall see. We shall see. We got the doctor. He's here.
Hey.
A good doctor.
What's up?
What's going on, Doc?
It's fun to watch all of these scores and think about what might be. Because it's not like it's one game that you're looking at and watching and, hey, this impacts that. There's 5 or 6, and then there's so many more tonight. And there's 2 the one that's really interesting now to me, I heard you guys talking about the playoff part of it, is the ACC. Because you got Clemson sitting there at, 8-2, maybe 9-2 now, about to be 9-2. Yeah, about to be 9-2. Excuse me. And if they go beat South Carolina and they're 10-2, but they don't make the ACC championship game, okay, are they a possible?
That's fascinating.
Somebody sneaks in. Because the other part is that their SMU is ahead of them.
I was going to say SMU is ahead of them.
SMU is going to be in the championship game.
Yep.
And then the guys already said, "Hey, we really value being in the championship game. Do we want to? We're not going to, kind of the whole punishment of that part." So
that would be new after last year.
Them. Like
that would be
all
very
of this.
new.
It's crazy.
Here's another game for you to look at.
And by the way, Minnesota has kind of dominated that game, other than some deep ball throwing from Aller.
Penn State up 23-22 for folks just listening to this show. You got us on something else. 3:31 left to go in the third quarter. Again, Minnesota is 4-3 in the conference. The Nittany Lions are 9-1. They only have that one loss to Ohio State, although they did, that was a home game. That was a lot of people said that was their play-in game to make the playoffs, but they're sitting at number 4. So If you get Minnesota upset here, Georgia jumps up to maybe 7.
Here's the kicker in all this, because what we're talking about, that number next to Penn State, yes, they're 4, but in the college football playoff, they're actually 6th.
Yeah.
So
okay. Even better. And they drop back to like 12, 13, 15, something like that.
So, but Georgia, we've been talking that they're actually 11th in the playoff bracket. So I thought
they were a 10 seed though.
They are 10th in the top 25, but they are the 11th team in the bracket right now.
Gotcha.
They'll be playing against Penn State, because you had Boise State, who has to jump up and fill in one of those conference, which also, I don't know how long that's going to stay a thing, but I would say not very long. The 4 conference champions getting a bye, because it makes no sense. You see it this year happening with Boise State. It could happen with SMU as well. SMU could be outside of the top 12, but get a bye if they win the ACC championship game. So,
but you know why they have that though?
So all 4 conferences feel like they can get in.
Well, that's what they had to do to agree to get everybody in.
But now you can change. Now you can move the goalposts. Now that you have
exactly. And that was their fear. They're like, we want assurances that we're not going to get screwed over. And I've been arguing with people all week, ever since Tuesday. And sometimes a lot of people come down and go, well, why don't you just let everybody from the SEC in? And the number one complaint about, Georgia, some of these other teams, they're sitting there with 2 SEC losses, and how, we're just like, look, strength of schedule matters. And the whiny little brats say, just win your games. And I pointed out, just winning your games, if one team has a much tougher road than the other team, that should factor into it. And they go, no, just win your games. And when they finally couldn't come up with an argument, the last line of defense was, well, you chose to be in the SEC, and it's not fair if the SEC, if we give them strength of schedule stuff. I'm like, oh, okay. So you are coming down to participation. So just like the other conferences, you're worried you were going to get frozen out. So you'll only agree to participate in the playoffs if you have a guaranteed spot for your crappy conference winner. So
which is chef's kiss right here, because as it stands right now, the Big 12 does not have a team getting a bye. It's actually a group of 4 conference getting a bye, which just is.
That would be glorious.
Because when this whole thing came out, that's what I thought until like a month ago, right? It was the power. It's
the 4 highest ranked champions.
Yeah, but I thought it was just the Power 4 all got their conference. No, it's the highest 4 conferences, and right now the Mountain West gets a bye as opposed to the Big 12.
Great point.
So, what did you think from that game today, Brent? Is there anything to take away from it, or we just kind of wash our hands with it, move on, or what?
A little bit, yeah. There's a lot of that. The biggest takeaway was, okay, is Christian Miller okay?
Yeah, that was my thing.
Like that
did not look good
in terms of what truly mattered. That mattered. Now they said something about a shoulder, popped it back into place. Okay, but does that mean not playing next week? I mean, you've been getting more of Jordan Hall, which has been good, but Christian Miller's been really, really good as an interior defender. So in terms of truly mattering, the other thing I think that truly mattered from that game is you only had 1 pass, but you had 0 turnovers, but you only had 1 pass where it was just like, that kind of could have been a turnover, where Dom went into the right, sort of middle of the field, and Carson put left. I think
he broke towards the post route instead of
kind of
going toward the pylon. I get it. You're supposed to break in or you break out, and they rushed. There was a blitz. So I think he's like, look, I got to get rid of it 50-50. I'm not sure which way he's breaking, but I don't have time to wait to see what he's going to do. So I'll throw it to one spot.
But, that's consecutive games now with 0 turnovers from your quarterback, who was a turnover machine previously. Like those are the things for me that mattered. And I will say I really didn't understand why Nate Frazier was in the game so long. I was like, okay, you got him his 100 yards. Great. Now get him out. Well, then he's getting like 3, 4, or 5 more carries after that. I
thought they should have taken Carson out.
I
they did, but
agree in terms of, I was curious why he was in it, and especially like the 4th down play where he takes the hit with his arm like that. That's one of the worst hits you can take.
Yeah.
That was not good. But in the grand scheme of things, move on. The interesting thing for Tech will be, you worry about Tech and their running game and whatnot. Well, guess what? Haynes King, if he's in the game, that's all they're doing. He can't throw. Like, it's quite obvious he cannot throw the football. If he can, it's 5 yards down the field. So there's going to be, and you saw that with even NC State. Like, they played a completely different defense based upon which quarterback was in the game. So,
but that also, for what it's worth, not to cut you off, that's also like Georgia's Achilles heel, is trying to decipher between two defenses for two different quarterbacks. We've seen that multiple times. Is trying to switch a defense to change up to that other quarterback. So.
But I think at least with, if Philo plays the majority of gets the majority of run, he's not going to take it 50 on you like Haynes King might, and it's gonna be a little more dialed in. Now I will say one of the things that was glaringly obvious watching Tech's game the other night was the Philo kid is comfortable playing the position.
Yeah, he's good.
Rush didn't bother him. Moving, throwing with anticipation, layering throws, all that stuff. You know what he looks like? He looks like a guy who threw like 8 gazillion passes in high school. Because he did. Because they threw it he set like passing yardage records. Now I don't think he's got like arm strength's got to develop, but the kid's a player.
Here's a question for you though, Brent. I was thinking about this watching that game Thursday night when they had Philo in there, and this is no shot against Philo being a true freshman coming out of Prince Avenue. Would he start over? Would any of Georgia's quarterbacks not start over him out of the 4 that they have? So obviously Carson's starting over him. Gunner's going to start over him. Rashada probably is going to start over him. And then Puglisi's the true freshman. I think all 4 of them start over Philo. So Georgia has 4 quarterbacks better than what Georgia Tech's going to throw at you, in my opinion.
I mean,
not again. I'm not knocking
based on recruiting.
I guess that's what I'm getting at. Is based on recruiting. Because we haven't seen Puglisi. We've seen very little of Rashada, but all the recruiting rankings wise, they're leaps and bounds ahead of Philo.
I've seen enough of Brock Vandegrift to know that Kentucky's defense is probably hating the fact that their quarterback can't run a functioning offense for them.
Yeah.
Because they'd be in the game against Texas if it wasn't for that.
Yeah.
Holds on the ball too long, as someone said.
Like he doesn't see it. You can just see that he's better in space. But the playoff stuff this is such a week-to-week game now.
Oh, yeah.
The whole sport, all of it's a week-to-week game. You have to be consistent. You have to show up, and you have to home, road. Now, all the things that matter traditionally in football, home, road. Did you play a big game last week versus not as big of a game this week? All the injuries, all that stuff matters even more so now because of the way the talent distribution is. But like Rody said earlier, by the way, if you're thinking about what are we eventually getting to? I think we're eventually getting to where 4 of 5 teams are in the Final Four. Georgia, Texas, Alabama, Oregon, Ohio State. It's those 5.
Yeah, that's who ends up pulling away. I think you're right.
I'm with you there. I do think the fact that you have all these teams factored in, and we're arguing over who's second, third, or 12th, 13th, 14th, it's good for the sport. We're week 11, and people are arguing. The viewership is up. We had a game. I mean, last week, 11.4 million people were tuned into Georgia, Tennessee. Now, both teams had enough losses that it should not have mattered. I mean, think about this year. Last year, Georgia went undefeated and still didn't make the playoffs. This year, they got 2 losses. If this is the old system, we're like, okay, well, Georgia, they need a top 10 finish to go hard in recruiting, and every show that we did would be recruiting shows. Who's going to come in and save Georgia's ass? Now we're talking about, hey, they're still alive. Ole Miss was still alive until today. Tennessee's like, oh, we're back in it, sons. Like they pulled me back in. It's great for the sport. That's why we have people saying, hey, maybe they just need to form 2 super conferences with the Big 10, the Big 12, and Georgia.
No.
I'm like, hey, I get it, but if you keep up with this top 4, conference champions get in, and you start bumping SEC teams and Big 12 teams, are going to be like, hey, this doesn't work for us. So you're going to have that kind of back and forth going on. Like you said, move the goalpost. You've been part of it now. We don't like how this is working out, so this is the first year, but it's good for the sport. Everybody's involved. Everybody's talking. The number 15 team's like, well, if we just went out and these 3 teams lose, we're the number 12 team. I mean, this time last year, 7 through 15, their seasons were done.
Well, I think also to kind of piggyback off that too is you can't, like in the NFL, you can have a game where you slip up and you lose, but you're still a better team. In college football, you can have that happen too. But in years past, there was no way, like if you slipped up in that game, sorry, buddy, next year you can try again next year. But this year it's like, oh man, Georgia slipped up in 2 really big games.
Or here's a bowl game with some cool stuff that your players get.
Right. But this year it's like Georgia still has a chance, and they're actually still a really good team that could make some noise. Like the same went for Ole Miss. They slipped up in a couple games. Now they lost again to Florida today. Now they're completely out of it, but they're a good team. But they slipped up. They messed up, and they would have never had a chance to get into the playoffs. I'll tell you what, though, that first round with the 4 home games as playoff games are going to be some of the best football to watch we've probably seen in a long time.
I agree.
It's kind of like the Sweet 16 day.
Oh, but
where it kind of the Elite 8 or the Final Four, it waters down a little bit with each one, and then maybe the games aren't as great. But
the thing is,
that day where there's so many games,
you're not having it on campuses though, Brent. You're having it on you're not having it at the home campus of that team, which Georgia having to go up and play in Penn State in a whiteout game, and it's probably snowing up there. And yes, they say the weather thing, whatever. No, it's not a big deal, but it would be cool as hell to watch.
Or you get Penn State in Sanford Stadium, and can Georgia recruit that weekend? Can they invite 150 kids to come sit? And again, it'll be after signing day, because signing day is the 4th. It'll be the 20th. But you could have all the 2026 kids, all the 2027 kids,
or the 2025 kids that are waiting until the next.
Hey, you're about to jump? Are you in the transfer portal? Come to a game. Come to a game during the transfer portal.
Remus Johnson with the pick 6. I think.
There you go.
If I'm a Texas fan, I'm watching my team week in and week out, and we've watched a lot of Texas, obviously, to get ready for that Georgia game. I watched a ton of Texas film. If they played Arch Manning all year, they would be, to me, a massive, not massive, but they would be infinitely better to me. He's just better. Like you watch Ewers throw the ball down the field, it's a coin flip at worst, or at best. I mean, like their offense to me is so much better with Arch Manning that decision to me might come back to haunt them when it comes to playing a good team.
Kentucky's only down 10 right now, and I say only down 10 for Kentucky. That feels like probably close to 50.
I think once Texas got to 21, it was
but
versus 20 wins,
they are within 10 points now on the road at number 3 Texas, so there is a chance, but it'll be tough. They need Dumas Johnson to get 2 more pick 6s for them.
A couple of things playoff related, like the loss from Ole Miss. Who does that help as much as anyone? Texas, because can Texas now survive a loss to A&M next week somehow?
Yep.
Because they're going to be 10-2, and Ole Miss will be 9-3, and maybe they're the last team in. What's that?
What does it do for Tennessee?
It helps them. Obviously, it helps them too. I think they would have a sort of feather in the cap over Texas with the win against Alabama.
I'm just saying they're kind of that. I guess
bubble teams.
Yeah, they're a bubble team now, and that's kind of what I was going to get to about. We're talking about the top 4 ranked conference champions get those buys. I think the next evolution of this whole thing and people will be mad this year, but it'll be the first year. They'll be twice as mad next year when some team gets hosed over. In years 3 and 4, you're going to see them go and say, "Look, we got to have 16 teams, seed them 1 to 16, just like we do the championship, and we're not giving automatic spots." Here's how we're going to do it. Seed them 1 to 16. Doesn't matter. If you win your championship game, that moves you up. If you lose your championship game, that moves you down. We can't take the winner of the MAC and put them in as a top 4 spot when they're ranked 22nd, or something like that, just because everybody else falls out. So I think you get 16 teams, and we get rid of some of those automatic conference wins or conference spots. And man, then the sport's going to freaking be. It's
also you have to think about this too. With let's say Oregon, right? Oregon and Ohio State will probably likely play in the big championship game. Am I correct?
Yes, I think that's definitive now. Ohio State still has to beat Michigan because them and Penn State would have one loss, I think.
So those two teams play in the big championship game. Oregon then gets the bye. They still have to play they still have to play that same game that Ohio State does. But Ohio State the next week gets a home game. How does that affect gate admission price? University money? They get a home game, whereas Oregon's going to a neutral site game. Like there's going to be that. So that's kind of piggybacks off your point, Roddy. To go 1 through 16, the top 8 get home games, and then the top 4 that are left out of those the top 8 get another home game, and then you go into the bowls themselves.
Well, at that point, you might actually be into the bowl games after that first round.
Actually, yeah, you would, wouldn't you?
Because you got to have so many numbers. How many?
You need 8 to go to the bowl game. So yeah, the top 8 would get a home game.
Yeah.
The first.
I know we had this conversation when I think this was we did a podcast when it was announced that the playoff would be expanded, and I mentioned this, but I don't know if you heard it. When I was a senior in high school, for my English 101 class, I wrote a paper on college football should go to a 16-team playoff, and that they should play those games on Friday and Saturday. The bowl games during the regular bowl games can exist. Play those during the week, like all this stuff. This was 25 years ago. So
you're damn visionary.
How long it takes to get there?
They said what the December 20th is that's a Friday?
Yes, there's one Friday night game and then 3 games on Saturday. It's like 12, 4, 8 kind of thing. Yeah. Which did you see the temperatures what it was last year that I tweeted out earlier in the week?
That was a good point.
Yeah.
Like at the coldest place was Athens. Like we had a 3-day stretch where the lows in the 20s right there. Now, granted, average temperatures and average highs are way better or way more here, but still that was, when you think about if that happened last year, the logistical stuff as it relates to having a home game is kind of crazy too, because students aren't on campus and all the things that go with that. If that actually does.
Oh yeah.
happen.
Yeah, kids won't be on.
Students
campus.
aren't here. There's no place for them to stay. Like the dorms aren't open. There's like the field. There's certain things with the field. There's all sorts of, which would probably be a great article and/or question for someone for the site, Roddy, is to all the logistical things that have to happen if Georgia hosts a home game.
We should get Josh Brooks on.
That would be because it's a long list, by the way. It's not. I've had that conversation with people.
Well, I mean, who runs your concessions? A local high school or a small school does that, but all their kids are out, not in class. So,
yep.
Yeah, it could be weird.
I don't know if you guys have looked. We'll do 1 second before the ASW. The temperatures for Friday night's game in Athens against Tech.
Oh, it's going to be the high is like 45.
Yeah, low of 28.
Jesus. I will be sitting in the stands at North Oconee high school field.
Ooh,
because we play
low of 28 on Friday night. So good luck having fun out there at that one, folks. Roddy, you're about to bring up our good friends at ASW.
I thought James Carraway has good points. Says Penn State just resodded their field in preparation for a home playoff game. That's some bravery there.
They're the luckiest people on the planet, by the way.
Yeah, they are.
Like they're going to skate by. They'll probably skate by against Minnesota. They'll win. I think they played Maryland, who's next to last in the Big Ten next week. Have literally one game on their schedule. They lose it, and they're going to host a playoff game. Like that's frustrating.
They have Maryland next week.
Like their best win is basically it's Illinois because Illinois escaped the day against Rutgers.
Yep.
But before that, it was at West Virginia. So, which I will tell you is not a quality win.
Well, they're up by 4. And what are you going to do? One thing you can do to be a little bit luckier is reach out to our friends at ASW Distillery. It is their Southern Pot Still Pioneers. It is a great company where 5 of the 6 founders are all Georgia grads. distilled by dogs for dogs. If you're not in the States and you're like, hey, how do I get some? Just go to sealbox.com, SEELBACHS, and you can have it shipped to you. Proceeds from the sale of Hunker Vodka and Hunker Bourbon go to the University of Georgia's NIL efforts. So instead of buying Tito's vodka or Maker's Mark or Jim Beam or whatever you like, Dickel, whatever your bourbon of choice is or your whiskey of choice, you can get the Hunker Bourbon. I started with a tall glass and I don't have much left. Check it out. They have given a lot of money to the University of Georgia, and you could do exactly what Texas does. Tito's was able to give them a $20 million check. Hunker's not there yet, but they're going to get there. So next time you've got the holidays coming, you're going to have drinks. You're going to have the family come over. Grab the Hunker Bourbon, the Hunker Vodka. They also make great gifts for the Bulldog fan in your life, and you help out the University of Georgia. All you got to do is drink. You can drink your way to Georgia getting to a national championship.
Nice.
I'm trying to help
that for a long time.
I'm trying my damnedest, And honestly, I can drink this straight out of the bottle.
Willie Carlin says the only reason for the expansion was to give Penn State and Notre Dame a spot. That's all it was. And he's not wrong. He's not wrong.
I mean,
Kevin Boyd said, I got mine. Go Dogs. There he is. There's KB. I thought I saw you earlier, KB. Good to see you, man. We got Gary Holt in the building. Texas is falling apart. Laugh out loud. Just missed a field. Oh. Say it ain't so, Gary. Yeah, UK's got the ball at the 29. Oh, Bert Auburn for Texas missed the 47-yard field goal. So you're saying there's a chance.
BYU's coming back on Arizona State. That they're kind of hanging
See
around.
That? Minnesota's at midfield against Penn
right now.
State.
Yep.
Against Penn State right now.
A couple of playoff-related things. There's a guy, I don't know if you follow him on Twitter, at CFB_professor, Adam McClintock. Him and that Dave Bartu, that College Football Matrix, they do a lot of the prediction stuff on the playoffs and have been like crazy accurate over the time frame with it. So for Indiana, he said, so how can a team with a strength of schedule of 118 and only one quality win be ranked so high? No losses and the highest game control in the poll at 30.1, however they look at that. He said the Hoosiers can afford an L, but it can't get out of hand. Well, guess what? If those guys on the committee say they watch the games, that was the JV versus the varsity. Like Ohio State looked like infinitely better, like infinitely more capable in that game. And then Texas, he talks about how projected 3. They had them projected at 3. If the Longhorns were to be upset in the last game versus A&M, they would likely go from 3 to out. The margin is so tight. It says strength of schedule of 60 is adequate, but only 2 quality wins, 0 top 25 wins. So,
interesting.
Ole Miss losing, these other teams losing helps Texas, but that game next week is ginormous for Texas.
Like Lil Wayne says, let it all work out.
You know who's really or what kind of ticks me off, who's really got off the hook here, is all the people who said it'll work out. Why are you mad, Georgia fans? Why are you mad, Alabama fans? Why are you mad, whoever? It'll work out. You got freaking lucky that DJ Lagway is able to beat Ole Miss. You could have been set up for a situation where
all those teams
no upset today. Indiana wins, in a close game against Ohio State. How far do you drop Ohio State with 2 losses? You ain't dropping them out. You damn sure not out Indiana.
But what's weird about it, Roddy, is every year though it somehow, except for last year with Georgia getting kicked out of the playoffs, that was crap.
And FSU.
Yeah, but besides that,
all your games. Well,
besides those 2 last year, for most every year, it has always worked out to where the top 4 have made their way well above, head and shoulders above the rest.
That's what bugs me, though, is the committee puts out their numbers, and because we've seen the playoff ranking committees for 4 or 5 years now, and they say, well, we're going to put this team here because these 2 teams face each other later on. I'm like, don't do that. Don't.
Well, I think also what they do is they stick to their guns too much from where they put a team on the first week.
Yep.
And they don't move them, because if you're really trying to make this bracket work, you can clearly tell Alabama's probably better than a 9 seed. Like they should be up higher. Penn State, but because you put Penn State so high, they can't drop.
And they didn't lose. Yeah.
Right.
And they're not losing.
You can't. They're not losing, so you can't drop them.
Teams
So
above them lose.
they're at 6, right? But Alabama should be at 6 and Penn State should be at 9. And it's you can go through this whole thing and look at it that way. Miami, they're not the 3rd best team.
That's a great point when you talk about that. If you currently flip the matchups as they were right now, would everybody be happy?
I think besides the Ohio State BYU one, yeah. Besides that,
right?
one.
But like outside of the other game, the other 3,
yeah.
Georgia at home against Indiana, right? Or
Georgia at home against Penn State. Ole Miss
was at home against Indiana. Alabama at home against. Like if you flip those, everybody been like, yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, right. But
I'm with you. They start out that way, and then like, well, this team didn't lose, so we can't drop them. I think what they don't want to have to justify is in week 2 or week 3, we dropped this team 4 points because these other teams won, or they beat somebody they shouldn't drop. I'm like, to me, just take it on the chin and reorder them and give me your best 12 today. Not, hey, it's going to work itself out. We're going to put these teams here as placeholders and then let them play it out and know that it's going to work out later on. No, put them in order today and not what you think is going to – because that's always been the number one issue when it comes to anybody that had a top 25 vote. So say you're an AP voter and you're like, are you setting up where you think these teams stand today or where you think they're going to end up at the end? Half the guys were voting one way, half the guys were voting the other. And I'm like, man, who's picking Vandy at 17? Come on.
So the counterpoint to that, and I'll ask both of you this, would you be okay with this college football playoff ranking, the bracket, not coming out until the week before? So next week, after the game's being done, that'll be the first time the bracket comes
prior
out.
to championship week?
Yeah. That's the first time you can see the
They're
bracket.
not going to do that because it's the TV deal. Like it's
Correct.
part of the TV.
Now I'm not.
It would be nice.
Now, we know
that
that's
would
not
make the most sense.
But
it would make the most sense.
Would you be okay with that if it just came out the one time before conference championships? But you also cannot do anything to.
I was about to say you have no way to affect it, so you don't know where you stand.
Zero clue of where you're standing. But that would make the most sense because you get all this stuff to play out. You don't have Miami sitting up there at the top. You don't have Penn State just chilling at 6th because they wouldn't be at 6 by the end of the year. You'd see teams quality wins and quality losses.
And we would have you'd make a lot of money for all the teams that try to predict the 64 team bracket for basketball. Who's in, who's out, and that's fine. Let those folks do that. Let them have their shows. ESPN can still have their "Here's what we project" show.
Oh yeah. You could find you a.
I'm with you.
I mean, Joe Lenardi does it throughout the whole year, and they bring him on for a whole month and a half.
We do it with draft coverage. Here's 1 through 32. Here's how they're going to line up. They
can still have money. They can still have money.
Yeah,
coming.
I'm with you. My only fear is, and we see this again with the NCAA basketball. They announce it. They don't bracket it and then say, let you guys play out and let's see what happens. They announce it on one day, and we all fill out our brackets, and we enter the pools, and we come up with silly names for our brackets, and we just go at it. I do like I hate the idea of you not knowing where you stand, but there would be enough projection so you kind of know. And at the same time, the more information the committee has, it's a lot easier when, hey, why did you put Ole Miss there? Well, they got 3 losses. That's why they're here. Here's why we put Georgia here. Here's where we put Alabama. You have the more time you can look back at everything with the body of work, the more accurate you can place them. So I'm with you. I could see them just saying, hey, after the regular season's done on that Tuesday before the championship weekend, here's where everybody's at. Everybody knows.
The problem with it is it goes back to Brent's point. They're making a lot of money on these shows for 6 weeks. But counterpoint that you could do shows, prediction shows the rest of the time.
They wouldn't have the same oomph, but I'm with you because the whole point of this is you need money. And people are like, well, it's just a money grab. Well, guess what? Every school is about to pay about $20 million to all its student athletes because of this House committee. And that's got to come from somewhere. So these giant TV contracts that the SEC and the Big 12 and everybody signed, that's got to pay for something. So TVs, if they need this, then you let them do it because you got to have that money to keep your program running.
Yep.
Well, I'm gonna go finish writing.
All right, Doc.
Yeah, you can't wait till tomorrow, you slacker.
Not
This
today.
ain't a 7 o'clock kickoff. You can do your news and observation and thoughts tonight.
Oh, can I put out the grades tonight, Brent, or I need to probably wait till the morning?
I mean, they'll probably be there late tonight.
All right. Well, late.
Let's
all right.
Paul. If we put them out and then they update them, we'll re-release them as an updated version.
I don't even know if they're out though.
Should I not tell you that they're already out?
Okay. Well, I guess that's what I'm doing once we get off of here. All right, Brent. See you later, bud. Damn it. And today, you know what sucked is I just kept watching all those freshmen walk in, and I was like, son of a bitch, he's gonna have a grade 2. Like I was like, because it's been so nice.
You don't even know their names, man.
They've been playing 19 guys on offense and 19 on defense. I can come up here in like 25 minutes and bust that out. And then they have this game. It's like there's 75 guys that are going to have grades, and apparently they're already in. What do you say we hand out some helmet stickers though? You want to kind of finish this thing early? There's not much else out there for this one. They are already out. I'll give you a little tease. This Georgia had.
Let me guess one. Let me guess Carson Beck.
Carson Beck, his PFF grade, is that where we're at after? 76.5. I
said let me guess.
Oh, shit, my bad.
English.
I thought.
You understand the word coming out of my mouth.
Okay, so I messed that up.
Guess 75.
Okay, so there's one guy in particular that scored 88 on offense. And this guy, I can't give any hints because you'll get him.
I mean, my thought would be Nate Frazier.
Nope.
They loved how did you protect and how did you do other stuff on that.
Okay, you're close. You're very close. Start with protect.
Yeah, I was going to say it's an offensive lineman, maybe.
It is.
Ooh.
And if I gave you a hint, you would know who he was. And that should actually give you a hint.
Don't tell me it's Truss.
No.
I was about to say we're gonna cancel that PFF contract right this second.
No, Monroe Freeling.
Drew Bobo.
Monroe Freeling. Played 70 snaps, got an 88 total grade, 69 pass block, but 90 run block. And shout out to Lawson Lucky, also 86 on him. And then defense.
Lawson was going to be when you said there was a protect, I was going to go Lawson Lucky because he had, caught everything, made first downs, blocked well. That's what I was going to think as well. He had up there.
Two guys on defense got a 90 or higher grade. Neither one of them are starters. So I will give you a couple of hints on this because there's 34 guys that play on defense. So neither one of them are starters. One guy played 16 snaps. One guy played 10, but they both graded out. There's only two guys above an 80. One guy played 16 snaps. One guy played 10, and they both got over 90.
Defensive lineman?
No. One of them kind of is. Yes, when I do the grades, this guy is a defensive lineman, but I kind of consider him more of an outside backer. But
okay, I was thinking maybe Quintavious Johnson.
Nope, he's up there though. He's ninth. Okay. He did play 10 snaps, so you're close on the snaps.
I was trying to think about snaps wise.
Aiden got one of them. So Chris Cole.
Yeah.
Only played 10 snaps, got 90.4 grade. The other one, I'm gonna be honest with you. They showed him on TV. I didn't know what he looked like. I've been doing his grades all year long. And he's played every game. I didn't know what he looked like. And his jersey number is one that you would not think a defensive end / outside linebacker would even have. Can I give you the name?
Go ahead.
Gabe Harris.
See, whenever time Gabe gets in and I see that 29, it kind of
I looked at it today.
For 2 years, it's effed me up, man.
Yeah, I looked at it today. He had I think he had a sack. Yeah, he had 2 sacks. I think it was on one of his sacks, and they have him here as 2 sacks. Yeah. Let's see if the actual book has him with 2 sacks.
They got him for 1 sack and a tackle.
They got him for 1. PFF has him for 2, for what it's worth.
Yeah. We did have a forced fumble. That was big.
But it was on one of those sacks, and I was like, 29. I was holding baby girl, and I was like, 29. My other hand, I'm Googling the roster. I'm like, oh, shit, this is Gabe Harris. I'm like, I've been writing his name down for I feel like a jackass. But he's been out there. He hasn't made a ton of plays, but congrats to him for getting his name out there.
All right. Let's see who else we want. Any other grades of note?
Not to.
There's going to be some low ones on the defense.
I was going to say, do you want me? I scrolled down. There's a
guy
who scored a 30 today, and that's our man Dirty Dan. Dirty Dan Jackson got a 30 today. That's not great. And then on offense, nobody crazy low on offense. All above a 50. So I will say, dear God, Cash Jones. And I hope that they update this, but I don't think that they will. He graded out as his pass blocking grade as a 1.1.
That must have been like he only had one pass block and he missed it.
He was in for 19 passing plays. He had a 1.1 grade on that.
You're always pass blocking on those. You could be going out for passes.
Right. Yeah, for sure. But I just thought I would show you that. So, yeesh.
Maybe it's supposed to be like 51.1.
Yeah, maybe they just transposed the number. 1.1 is the lowest I've seen, I think, ever.
At that point, you might as well just say, hey, look, you didn't do anything.
Yeah, he didn't. Yeah, because they give you a 60 from the beginning. So, helmet stickers?
Sure. Go ahead.
Nate Frazier. I'm going to take the low-hanging fruit.
He deserves one, dude. Is he Georgia's first 100-yard rusher of the year?
Oh, that's a very good question. That is, yeah, I want to say yes. Something like Aiden. Aiden can help us out with this, or Kevin. James can definitely help us out with it in the chat. I want to say yes, but I also think Etienne may have had one game. Nobody's had 136, though, I don't think.
No, I don't think anybody's had a 100-yard game for Georgia.
So shout out to Nate Frazier. 3 touchdowns, too, definitely the most in a game this year. They've had to rely on him way more than I think they probably felt like they wanted to, for sure, bringing him in. And he's done a good job. So I'll give him one. I don't give out very many on the offensive side of the ball or defense. Really, I give one each. Give me Warren Brinson.
Warren had a good game.
Give me Warren Brinson. And I'm curious because I always give out these I don't get to see the grades before I give these out. And sometimes I feel really stupid when I go back and do the grades. So Nate graded out 9th overall on offense, and Warren is 5th. So I'm okay with that. I'm good.
Warren actually tied for the team lead in tackles.
He's a guy, him, Stackhouse, Zion Logue last year, Tramal Walther. They were some of Trey Scott's first kind of guys that stuck around for a long time. And none of them were the big-time recruits like Trayvon Walker or any of those guys. They were really set for almost like a depth, if you will. And Warren Brinson has completely outshined that this year. He's not a depth piece. He's a guy that'll probably get drafted, I think. So,
well, I remember after that, right before that TCU game, he's like, "Yeah, he's going to come back. You got to go into the pros." I'm like, "Who?" So, yeah, that's a big one. I have to give one to Michael Williams, the other guy who tied for the team lead in tackles. He had 5 solo tackles, 1 sack. Georgia had 3 sacks on the day. You mentioned Gabe Harris and Warren Brinson both had 1. That was big. And of course, I got to give one to the man, Chris Cole, 3 tackles, touchdown. He is different. Chris Cole is definitely you got to give him one just for a defensive score. How many defensive scores has Georgia had? Is that also the first one of the year?
Did they have? I feel stupid. Did they have one against Clemson?
I don't know. It feels weird. But it feels like there just haven't been a whole lot. But did anybody have a pick 6?
No.
So fumble recovery, scoop and score. There haven't been many of those. I don't think Georgia hasn't scored on special teams play either, have they?
No. You've been calling for that all year. They have not gotten that.
Did they have one last year or the year before? It feels like it's been 100 years since they had one.
You know, I have a brain of a goldfish, so you're asking the wrong guy there.
Right.
You need to have Dave McStats that.
Okay, well, of course, I mean, you got to give one to Carson Beck. No turnovers, most importantly, but 20 of 31, 297 yards, 4 touchdowns. At one point, he was 7 of 7, for almost 100 yards and 2 scores. Just efficient leader, 5 rushes for 5 yards. He had more than that, but then, of course, got taken down. So just an absolute different leader out there. Big fan of his. And I also go with Lawson Lucky, 4 catches, 60 yards, one of them for 23. I mean, they threw to him 4 times. He had 4 catches, 41 yards after contact. I wish a couple times I think he could have scored, but and again, Oscar Delp with another touchdown this week. 3 touchdowns in 2 weeks. He's big, but so I give Delp the helmet sticker for scoring. He had the 1 catch, touchdown, but I mean definitely Carson Beck, that was big. And you mentioned Humphreys. Trying to think of Arian Smith, 3 catches, 110. What is that? Was that 33? It's more than that.
110. It's like
39 yards a catch.
Yep. Good math. Good math, boss.
39 yards a catch. Keep throwing him the damn ball. I know he drops some, but when he catches, 110 yards on 3 catches, 1 touchdown. Great day for Arian Smith. Love to see it. Also need to see right off the bat, not that we're giving him a helmet sticker, but good to see Sokovia White get in there. 2 catches.
Mm-hmm.
So
and one of his catches, he drug like 5 or 6 guys with him. He was not going down.
I mean, we had Jed May standing on the table telling us we've got him ranked too low. He's too low. And I'm like, okay. I mean, and we tease that Jed makes the rankings. He doesn't, but we kind of joke about it.
Here's a guy for this year. I don't post very often on the board because I just don't have enough time. London Rolden. Landon, brother. I'm telling you right now, that kid comes in, different beast. I would not be surprised at all if he gets playing time next year. He's good. Folks are saying Penn State's walking away with this one. 26-25, 1 minute 49 left. I'm assuming Minnesota does not have any timeouts left. Is why you guys are saying they're walking away with this thing.
They're on the 21.
Huh. They are saying that there is still a 7% chance that Minnesota can win this game. So I guess they still might have a timeout. Colorado is getting crushed right now by Kansas, so they're out. Texas is going to pull away. They just scored again, 31-14, 3 minutes left to go in the 4th. So Texas holds on. Arizona State going to hold on, it looks like, against BYU. The South Carolina is going to beat Wofford, Missouri, Mississippi State. And then here in just about 10 minutes or so, guys, turn your TVs on for Army Notre Dame in Yankee Stadium, Roddy. Nice little place to play a football game up there.
Well, yeah, didn't they play at Wrigley Field last week?
They did, yeah. Yep. But here's the game.
What are we going to see a game inside
Truist Park?
Truist Park.
Hell, we see it a game every week inside Turner Field with Georgia State. So there you go. Just go down the street and watch that. I told you about the time I had to go cover a game for you at Turner Field, right? When they changed it over. It was before Georgia State bought it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it wasn't being used for anything really. And they were like, hey, let's have some of these Corky Kell kickoff games at Turner Field. And so I show up. This is back when Wes Blankenship was with 11 Alive. So this is how far back it was. We show up, we go park the media parking lot. We walk in, and the underbelly of Turner Field is like a ghost town. There's stuff that's like hasn't been touched in 5 years. It feels creepy. We get out on the field. We're looking up in the corner, and there is a man in one of the suites up there that you cannot get to. I looked at Wes. Wes looked at me, and he was like, "Yeah, man, I think I'm gonna head out. I don't know if I feel comfortable here." So yeah, it was you couldn't get to where that guy was. He had his own suite. That's where he was living. Was in the Turner Field suite somehow. But yeah, hopefully Georgia State is taking care of that stadium a little bit better than that. But last game of note tonight, Roddy, 7:30. Texas A&M is at Auburn. That line is shifting. It's moving. That's actually going to be a close game. Vegas is trying to tell you something there, much like they try to tell you with Kansas and Colorado, with Kansas only being a 3-point dog. Kansas winning this game by 16 points now. Watch this game.
I will say this. Kirby says it all the time, and I will – that game's at Auburn, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to know one of the hardest places to play football?
At night in Jordan-Hare.
Jordan-Hare. I know people don't want to hear that because you want to crap on your opponents, but playing –
Oh, they have like dead witches underneath that field or something.
Dude, shit happens there.
Yeah. I
mean – I was there for the tip ball, the miracle, you've seen the kick six, but that is just a small portion of the weirdness that happens there. And it is a loud place to play. It's tough. And they play different at home. They play completely different and always have. So I don't care what coach you go back to. That's a different stadium. So, look at the times that they should have beaten Alabama or have beaten Alabama when it shouldn't have been close. And I get it; it's a rivalry game that won't be the same as playing Texas A&M, but there's just something about playing there.
And Auburn knows that they can take out Texas A&M.
Yeah,
much like Georgia Tech knows next week they can take out Georgia.
Yeah,
so.
It's the same going to we kind of laugh about South Carolina, but they play different at home. Kentucky plays different at home, so. Texas A&M is probably the better team. They should win this, but it's completely different. Vandy doesn't matter. Missouri doesn't matter. Mississippi State doesn't matter. Ole Miss, they beat Georgia at home, but they play Ole Miss football pretty much no matter where they go.
Stadium's tiny too. They only have like 50,000, I think, in that Bot Hemingway.
Yeah, but it's different, man. When you go into Jordan-Hare, it's just I don't know. I don't know if they spike the water or something and make the other team sick. I don't know. It's a weird
like they did with Jordan back in the food poisoning. So, guys, we appreciate you so much. We did 2 hours and 37 minutes on a UMASS game. I say it was pretty damn good.
That is pretty good.
Next Friday night, don't eat all that leftover turkey. Stay up late with us, guys. We'll be here after the game.
We might be mad as hell.
I was going to say, I think. Pray the Dogs win that one because I don't want to do this show if they don't, because it's going to be crazy. Hey, before we get out of here, special shout out to Bitten and Bitten, the Rogue Shop, and ASW Distillery. Roddy, happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. Hope you guys have a great time Thursday. But again, guys, Friday night, we will be back here ready for you. Tomorrow night, Sunday show, Peach State Power Hour. Tuesday, UGA Sports Live with Coach Don and the crew. And it's hate week. It's ready to go. Anything else, Roddy?
I love they call it clean old-fashioned hate when it's one of the dirtiest damn games you've ever seen in your life.
And it'll be dirty Friday night. I can't wait. I'm so excited.
I will make a prediction right now. Within the first 2 series, somebody's going to get hurt.
I don't doubt that. Also,
I'm going back to the times when they were running that options shit, and they would always take out one of Georgia's defense technique every time. I'm not saying that they will do that. It could go either way. But when these two teams hit next week, they are going to hit. They try to knock the crap out of each other. So somebody's going to get hurt in the first two possessions.
Yep.
Call my shot now.
Guys, we appreciate you. I'm Paul Meharry. That's Ryan Nabolsi. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's Postgame Overreaction show. Mari, we appreciate you as always. See you guys.